What it takes. Chapter 1 is simple exercise. When Jiraiya decides to test out a new jutsu he learned from a traveling merchant, it lands Naruto and his team in a situation that will change his life and his perception on just what it means to be a ninja forever. When they regained their composure, Uchiha Sasuke was the first to speak. I might have expected this from a sensei of Naruto's. Nothing happened. Keep your comments to yourself, brat, Jiraiya snarled indignantly. Just because you've got those Sharingan eyes doesn't mean you can insult me. Sasuke, ever the conversationalist, said nothing in response, simply setting himself upon a fallen tree and sighing. Haruno Sakura, Sasuke's ever-present pink-haired confidant, although according to him the word annoyance would have been better, sat down beside him almost instantly. Sasuke-kun, are you okay? She asked worriedly. Are you hurt? Of course not, Sasuke snapped back. The white-haired hermit grunted and rolled his eyes. He was beginning to understand his hot-headed student's nearly religious disdain of the last remaining Uchiha. Itachi didn't count missing Nins had no names. The pretentious little punk was pretty damn annoying. The bored, annoyed, stone-faced youth was looking around himself with an expression that was uncomfortably familiar to Jiraiya, who instantly looked away. You're too much like Orochimaru for your own good, kid. Pretty soon you'll grow a forked tongue. Oi! Came a grating, squawking voice from behind him. Eros and Nin! What's this jutsu supposed to do? I don't feel no different. Don't call me Eros and Nin, Jiraiya muttered under his breath. Now, he began in a louder, sagely, in his own mind, toned the purpose of this jutsu, a very complicated jutsu which only the greatest of shinobi could accomplish, I might add, is to Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya stopped mid-lecture, fingers still up in the air, to accentuate his words, to regard the stoic masked Jounin leaning back against a tree trunk, an extremely familiar book held easily in one glove-clad hand. Huh? Hatake Kakashi glanced up, his single visible eye meeting Jiraiya's own. They are our students, are they not? He asked. Yes. Jiraiya replied, wondering where this was going. Then, why not let them figure it out? Like it or not, the Uchiha has a point. We don't even know if it worked. I can't be entirely certain after all. Kakashi shrugged, slipping his book into the pouch at his belt. If it didn't, then they won't find anything. But if it did, they should be able to tell. Jiraiya contemplated the younger ninja's suggestion, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. The idea did have merit. After all, what better way to test a young genin's observation skills than to place him, or her, in a situation where there may or may not be anything to observe? All right, Kakashi. Good idea. That's your training for the day. Amongst the three of you, decide just what it was that my jutsu did. If you can figure that out or prove to my satisfaction that nothing has changed, then you pass. If you cannot do this, well, you'll find that out later. Jiraiya glared pointedly at Sasuke when he said this. The young Sharingan user was unperturbed. He glared right back. I don't think so, he said. I don't intend to fail. It's all well and good to say that, Sasuke-kun, the frog hermit snapped, placing sarcastic emphasis on the honorific, but the important part is to back up your big words. So how about you three get to work and come up with an answer before you start gloating, huh? Yash! Uzumaki Naruto cried excitedly. No sweat, Eros and Nin. Stop calling me that. Jiraiya growled, whirling on his heel. That's Jiraiya-sama to you, brat, not Eros and Nin. Don't call me Eros and Nin. Then stop being one. Naruto shot back, crossing his arms. Jiraiya's white-hot glare was met equally by his young charge, and eventually the legendary Leaf Nin turned novelist averted his eyes and snorted. Just get to work, Naruto. You only have until sundown to give us an answer. You too, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi said. Get moving. Without complaint, although Sasuke rolled his eyes again, the other two genin of Team Kakashi left the clearing to follow their hyperactive, unthinking, far too chipper for this hour of the morning teammate. The two older ninja remained in the clearing, Kakashi staying where he was, his book back in his hand, and Jiraiya sitting down in the same spot which Sasuke had occupied moments earlier. Jiraiya sighed. Well, I wonder how long it will take them to figure this out. If it worked, Kakashi murmured, Sasuke will know before long, Sakura too. Naruto might not understand at first, but all in all, if it worked, they'll know. What will take them a long time is finding proof that nothing happened if in fact it didn't. TCH, Jiraiya snorted. It worked. I felt it. You said you got the scroll from a wandering peddler a month ago, Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi reminded. We cannot be sure that the effects are what she said they were. Jiraiya grunted. That's why I am not sure. But, for how much I paid for the thing, it had better have worked as advertised. I intend to soak in a lot of nostalgia here. I am still not certain this was a good idea. Kakashi muttered. Oh, you wouldn't you stick in the mud, Jiraiya complained, waving off the Jounin's concern. Honestly, with the fourth as your teacher, one would have thought some of his adventurous nature would have washed off on you. Who could pass up an opportunity like this? Think of the possibilities. I am. Kakashi replied softly. And that is precisely why I don't like this situation. I cannot see it ending well. I apologize, Jiraiya-sama, but I find myself hoping that your attempt failed, or that the jutsu was a fraud. Jiraiya sighed and shook his head. Sheesh. Well, we'll just see then, won't we, kid? Kakashi twitched at being called such a name, but he said nothing. You know, in order to avoid unnecessary confusion, you may want to pick up an alias. You know, just in case we happen to run into someone. That particular idea, which Kakashi understood immediately, obviously hadn't passed the silver-haired ninja's mind, because his eye widened and he lowered his book. Jiraiya grinned, looking so much like his student that it was eerie, but Kakashi didn't see it. His mind was occupied. Now he was thinking of other possibilities than the ones he had been concerned about. He was thinking about precisely the same things that Jiraiya had thought about when he'd bought the scroll. Kakashi choked out. See, aren't you glad I brought you along? It was difficult to do it myself, and 3 genin wasn't all that hard. Although Naruto caused a bit of a headache. You took a lot of extra energy. But I thought you would appreciate the scenery. Jiraiya-sama. Kakashi turned his head. This jutsu is amazing. Incredible? Wondrous? The greatest thing you've ever laid your eye on? Dangerous? Jiraiya's eyebrows rose. Dangerous? Well, sure, if the wrong people learn it, but... Well, that woman said she only sold that jutsu to people she deemed responsible. And I believe her. She had a knowing way about her. Yes. And she gave it to you. This comment was pointedly ignored. While the potential of this jutsu is rather intriguing, Jiraiya was pleased to note the copy ninja's change of opinion. There is one particular person I am concerned about. Concerned about? Who? Naruto? Oddly enough. No, I am concerned about Sasuke. The implication seemed to hit Jiraiya just then as the frog hermit raised his eyes to regard the sky, something he always did when deep in thought. He frowned. I hadn't really thought about him. Well, I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on him, won't we? Kakashi nodded, placing his book back into its pouch. I suppose we should leave then. Jiraiya nodded. It was a sad fact in Konohagakure that while the members of Kakashi's genin team had possibly the greatest potential of all of their peers, their teamwork, or lack thereof, made them the least accomplished squad to have come along in centuries. So it was no surprise that an argument broke out not 4 minutes into the training exercise. This is stupid. Nothing's different. Ero Sannin didn't do anything. We can't know that yet, Naruto, Sakura said with a disgusted look on her face. We haven't looked at anything. Sure we have. Naruto waved his hand impatiently at the village before them. You see anything? Dobe Sasuke muttered. Of course we aren't going to notice anything this far from the village. You're just as much an idiot as your teacher. What was that, you jerk? I ought to, boys. Sakura cried. Stop this. Shut up. Both shinobi snapped at their pink-haired teammate before going for each other's throats. Naruto had forgotten, and Sasuke hadn't known, that Sakura had been receiving personal training from Tsunade, the kunoichi of the legendary Sannin, and arguably the strongest, physically, of all the ninja of the Hidden Leaf. And even if you were Sasuke, you just didn't get away with telling a student of Tsunade to shut up. Nursing bruised noses, Naruto and Sasuke sulked as they shuffled next to a sauntering Sakura into the village. I can't believe she hit me, Sasuke thought. Of course she would apologize profusely and heal his injuries in about 7.6 seconds, but still. She had hit him. And it had hurt. Stupid Tsunade-bachan taught Sakura-chan her chakra hand trick. Crap! Naruto thought with a glare. Yes. Tsunade had molded his precious Sakura-chan into a dangerous person. In other words, deadly, angry, narrow-eyed, grumpy, evil, rabid, overbearing, unusually psycho and sadistic. Just great! Before that, old witch had become Hokage, Sakura-chan had been a lot nicer, not really, just weaker. Naruto grumbled curses as he placed Sakura's name on the list right under Tsunade's. Sure, they were the only two names on that list. But the fact that there was even a second one was frightening enough. What's that paper, Naruto? Sakura asked, deceptively sweet. And nothing, Sakura-chan. Nothing at all. Naruto was silent as Sakura started talking to Sasuke about the new healing jutsu she had just perfected. Oh. Sorry. 28 seconds. Must have been having an off day. Naruto wasn't surprised at all that she didn't bother to heal him. But then his own bruises were gone already anyway. Would have been nice if she had offered, though. Fat chance of that. The day Sakura ever thought to heal him would be the day that Sasuke danced the Kin with Gaara and Shino. Sasuke and Sakura had no idea why Naruto suddenly howled with laughter. They just ignored it like they always did. And when he suddenly started kicking his legs up and pointing at the black-haired, black-eyed boy before actually falling down and curling up in a fetal position, Sakura just started kicking him. After 2 minutes of this with no change in Naruto's behavior, Sasuke grabbed the blonde by the collar of his orange jacket and dragged him the rest of the way to the village, muttering to himself about how Naruto was a waste of plasma and that he was starting to understand why Orochimaru had become a missing nin. Jiraiya probably hadn't been any better and might have been worse. And once or twice voiced his regret at having come back to Konoha. He didn't bother telling Sakura to quit kicking. Chapter 2: Speculation. Naruto was still grumbling about how stupid this exercise was because he wanted to learn a new jutsu, but that was something Sasuke and Sakura had gotten used to. He was thick-headed to a fault and didn't understand, or want to understand, the need for subtler training exercises such as the one they were currently taking part in. If he could beat anyone he came across, who cared if he was subtle? It was a headache, really. Sakura noticed things that the others likely didn't. Subtle, again, things. Small things. Insignificant little things about the landscape, the placement of objects, the people walking about the village doing their daily business. Sasuke didn't see everything that Sakura did, but he noticed buildings were different, that plants and other such things were arranged differently, that the people he passed weren't immediately recognizable. Naruto didn't find anything amiss, because he hadn't been looking, he'd been complaining, until they passed his favorite restaurant, Ichiraku Ramen. What the holy? Did you see anything interesting, Kakashi? Jiraiya posed as he set up a fire to cook the fish he had just caught. Somewhat, Kakashi murmured. Nothing substantial yet, but it's clear the jutsu did as the old woman said it did. There's hardly a doubt in my mind anymore. Jiraiya grinned. Good. I can't wait to start looking around. Who knows who I might find? Maybe the star of my next book? Heh. I haven't been writing for a while. Kakashi, as much as he enjoyed the hermit's books, still rolled his eye at the old man's single-mindedness. Is that all you think about, Jiraiya-sama? Not all. No, I am hoping to meet someone in particular, but I don't know if I'll run into him for a while. For now, I figure I'll just spend my time researching. At least until the brats come back with their answer. I figured before we do anything we should explain it to them so they know exactly what's going on here. Are you certain it was a good idea to send them to the village alone? They may do something to knock it off, would you? Jiraiya said. You worry too much. Stupid as he seems, that kid's got a decent head on his shoulders when he decides to use it. And the other two will likely catch on quick enough and keep him from getting into too much trouble. Somehow I am doubting that. Kakashi muttered. You know you don't always have to express your opinion. HM. Still doubting. Seems you learned something from your old commander. You both don't know when to shut up. Both Yandeme-sensei and I simply know a certain truth about you. If we don't constantly express our opinions, your mind will lose track of it. A fleeting glance of swaying hips, a flash of cleavage, the slightest hint of a feminine figure causes all other thought to flee your head like the steam you so often use for cover at the bathhouses. How poetic. Sensei's words. He was rather proud when he came up with it, as I recall. Uh-huh. Anyway, stop your worrying. This will be fun. Now help me set this stupid thing up. You have to be careful when cooking fish, or it'll end up. Kakashi's hands flew in a series of seals, and a wave of flame shot over the fish, causing Jiraiya to jump and drop the stick he had been holding. Glaring at the masked Jounin, the hermit huffed and looked at his ruined meal. They were cooked perfectly. Cocky little son of a, Jiraiya muttered under his breath. Kakashi cracked open his book again. How many times had he read them, Jiraiya wondered, and remained completely silent while Jiraiya went on a tirade about not getting the respect he deserved and how no one ever listened to him anymore. He and Naruto were made for each other. Kakashi muttered under his breath. What was that? A sigh. Nothing, Jiraiya-sama. Nothing at all. Anyway, they won't be back until sundown, will they? Somehow I am doubting that, Jiraiya said, echoing the Jounin's earlier words. Naruto will probably be too impatient to stay in the village till then. He'll come up with something and run back here. We'll tell him what really happened then. He ripped a fish off of the stick and chewed thoughtfully. How close will he get, I wonder? Sasuke probably has the best chance of guessing, really. I'd venture to think he's the only one with a chance of guessing, Kakashi said. Naruto will think too lightly, Sakura too deeply. Sasuke, though. Well, Jiraiya nodded. Yes. It was likely true. Before any of the three genin had a chance to comment on the condition of the popular restaurant, a loud snapping voice caused them to flinch. They turned around slowly at the Heiyu, directed at them, cautious looks on their faces. A black-haired man, tall and dressed in an unfamiliar uniform, glared at them. You! He snarled, pointing to Sasuke. What is your name? Sasuke. The man glared at him intensely, arms crossed and clearly insulted by something. His black eyes narrowed. That shirt you're wearing. Sasuke. What about it? Sasuke snapped. Only an Uchiha may wear that insignia. You're a genin by the look of you, and that means you should know this. Who exactly do you think you are? Sasuke continued to glare right back at the man, yelling at him, indignant rage flaring in his eyes. I don't know what your problem is, he said, but I am an Uchiha. So back off. You think highly of yourself to lie so blatantly to me, boy. I'll let you off with a warning this time, but if I see you with that symbol anywhere on your body again, I won't be so lenient. Idiot, Sasuke muttered and turned his back. The kunai embedded itself into the back of his shoulder, felling him in an instant. The pain that shot down Sasuke's arm made him bite his tongue, and he ripped the instrument out with a slight cry. Next time, show some respect. The man left. Naruto, looking from the retreating man to Sasuke, then back again, gaped in disbelief. What the? This is weird. He didn't know me, Sasuke murmured softly, grunting as he stood up. And the kunai he threw at me. I couldn't even sense it. Sakura reached into the pouch at her belt for supplies and set to healing her teammates' wound. I think this is a village-wide genjutsu. Nobody's recognized us so far. And everything is a little different, it seems. But what would be the purpose of such a jutsu? Did he use it just to test us? To confuse us? Sounds just like something Erosanin would do, Naruto muttered. He's probably off spying at the bathhouse, and it'll make it easier to do that if nobody recognizes him. Yes, Sakura said, nodding. Jiraiya-sama would do something like that. He probably made up this exercise to get rid of us so he can go on one of his research sessions. Research sessions? Sasuke asked, raising an eyebrow. Oh yeah. Sasuke didn't know Jiraiya. He writes those dirty books Kakashi-sensei reads all the time, Naruto said. Those Ika things. He says he needs plenty of inspiration and research to write good stuff. All that means is he looks at girls when they're taking a bath or swimming or something. Jiraiya-sama is a world-class pervert, Sakura said. TCH, Sasuke rolled his eyes again. Figures. And let me guess, Naruto. He liked your sex change jutsu. That's not what it's called, Sasuke. Whatever. But, yeah. Sure did. Called me a genius. Kept asking me to do it over and over again. Said it made his heart set on fire or something stupid like that. Did he touch you? Sakura asked, not necessarily out of any concern for the blonde's dignity, but for the sole purpose of seeing if the white-haired man was really as creepy as she thought. No. Then Naruto grinned. Why, Sakura-chan? Feeling possessive? Bad idea. It took Naruto several minutes to fully extract himself from the fence. By that time the angry bruise on his face had healed. How's that, Sasuke-kun? It's fine. Thanks. Naruto grumbled as he wiped off his pants and took chunks of wood out of his hair. I ain't paying for that, Sakura-chan. You explained to the guy why you broke his fence. Sakura ignored him. Surprise, surprise. So it's some weird Eros and name trick to peek at girls? Naruto muttered. Yeah. Gotta be. And it caused everyone not to know us. That guy didn't even recognize Sasuke-kun. The nerve saying he wasn't an Uchiha. And I am betting nobody will recognize us either. Even if I went home, my parents would probably think I am a stranger. Yeah. Since nobody said hello to us. Much as I don't want to admit it, lots of girls would be waving at Sasuke if they remembered who he was. And all the different aspects of the village, like the paint on the buildings and the trees and stuff. Probably just to try confusing us. Throw us off our guard. Jiraiya-sama likes to do that. Naruto said, nodding. Eros and Nin does lots of stuff you don't expect. Really annoying too. Sasuke and Sakura looked at each other, but decided not to say anything. It was too much of a headache. I mean, look at what he did to Ichiraku. Naruto crowed with a scowl. Stupid Eros and Nin. He did this just to piss me off. Sasuke stood up. I think I've seen enough. Let's go back. Yeah, it's pretty clear what he's done, Sakura said. And I want to go home and take a bath anyway, so the sooner he reverses it the better. Naruto scowled. Yeah. Stupid Jinjutsu. What's the point if we got it already? I got it, Naruto. You didn't get anything, Sakura said. TCH, whatever. Let's just go back and tell Eros and Nin. No. Huh? Naruto and Sakura both looked at Sasuke, who was looking around. His black eyes were somber cold. No what? Naruto asked. It's not that simple. What do you mean, Sasuke-kun? Sakura posed. This isn't some ordinary jutsu. It's not as simple as you think. I can feel it. This is too different. And that man. He what? He was. Huh? Sasuke looked up. Never mind. Let's go. Quickly. Sakura and Naruto followed their teammate and self-proclaimed leader, having to sprint to keep up with him. Whatever he had discovered, it had him worried. And it wasn't as simple as someone not recognizing him because of a Jinjutsu. Now that he had said that, Naruto and Sakura could feel it too. There was something off about the jutsu. Something far more complicated. Chapter 3 revealed. So? It seems you've decided you know the answer to the question. Kakashi lowered his book and slipped it back into its pouch, crossing his arms and raising a thin silver eyebrow. Jiraiya, chewing methodically on a strip of fish, gestured to the food skewered on thin sticks cooking on the fire. The three genin sat down and began to eat. Well, we're not certain, Sakura said. But the only thing I can think of is a village-wide Jinjutsu. The scenery is different, the villagers are different, and nobody recognized us. We didn't recognize anyone either, so we figured you changed their appearances. So we figure what you did, Eros and Nin, is use the jutsu so you could spy on girls without anyone knowing who you were. Naruto added the expression on his face, showing that he clearly disapproved of the activity. And you changed stuff around in the village to confuse us? Jiraiya frowned thoughtfully. Is that so? A genjutsu woven around the village so that the user is unrecognized. Sounds like something a missing nin might want to use, Kakashi? Kakashi shrugged. Might want to see if such a jutsu exists, he murmured. It would probably help the Umbu Corps in tracking them down. But, nope. Sorry, Naruto Sakura, but you have it wrong. So, the young genius is silent, Jiraiya said. I take that to mean you have another guess. So what do you say, Sasuke? The black-haired boy turned his eyes up to the hermit with a strangely intense expression. It was strange because Jiraiya found himself slightly intimidated by it, which didn't sit well with him. Damn, Jiraiya, knock it off. He scolded himself. He came back. He's not Orochimaru's pawn. Ugh. This is ridiculous. Sasuke drew in a deep breath. At first I agreed with Sakura and Naruto. Genjutsu seemed the most likely solution. The first thing that made me think that wasn't the case, though, was that I couldn't see through it. Ah. Tried to use your Sharingan to break the illusion, Jiraiya murmured. However, that wasn't enough, he continued, because the jutsu was performed by one of the legendary Sannin. So, I couldn't exactly rely on my eyes to break it. Jiraiya smirked. Correct. If I wanted to use genjutsu on you, nothing you did would make it break. You're too young and too inexperienced. Sasuke grunted. Still, it was enough to make me doubt. Then we passed Ichiraku Ramen. Or at least what should have been Ichiraku Ramen. But it wasn't there. That, of course, also could have been part of the genjutsu, but it made us stop. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. A man accused me of falsely proclaiming myself an Uchiha and warned me against wearing my clan's insignia. That could have also been the genjutsu Sakura and Naruto are suggesting. But, his hair was black, not gray. But he was unmistakable. Oh? And who was it that stopped you, Sasuke? A member of the Konoha military police force. Uchiha Yashiro. Sakura gasped and Naruto stared. You know that guy? Sakura asked incredulously. He was a part of your clan? You had to know I wouldn't appreciate this, Sasuke muttered, ignoring his teammates, and I don't think you would do it just to spite me. Regardless of the rumors I've heard about you, I've also heard that deep down you're a respectable ninja. So I don't think this sort of prank would be something you'd do. I don't think this is some genjutsu you used to test us. Jiraiya was actually smiling. Oh? So what do you think? I think you brought us into the past. Huh? Sasuke, what the hell are you talking about? Naruto crowed. The past? Are you serious? Yes. Back when my clan was still alive. When it was a respected presence in the Hidden Leaf. That's what you did, isn't it, Jiraiya? The frog hermit chuckled. Genius indeed. Then again, we figured you would run across someone from your clan during your assignment. Yashiro, huh? Yeah, if I remember right, he was always a stickler for tradition. He would have been annoyed to see a non-Uchiha with the Uchiha insignia. Did you tell him you were? Yes, I did. He struck me with the kunai. Huh. Well, in any case, you have it right. The jutsu I used is a time travel technique. It's a complicated process, but evidently it worked. Good. Jiraiya-sama. He's right? Sakura asked. We're in the past? Sure, Jiraiya said. At least a decade back. Probably more. I am not entirely certain. I was aiming for about 14, but who knows if that's what I managed. Guess we'll find out, won't we? Kakashi crossed his arms. We'll have to do something about this. If you achieved your goal, these three haven't been born yet, which means we'll have to have some way to explain their presence here. I figure I'll talk to the old man, Jiraiya said. He can help cover this up. He'll know the jutsu, he'll understand the situation. We can just say they've been training with me for a while, which is why they haven't been around. I gave them the headbands because I tested them myself and deemed them ready. Only the Hokage and his council can decree a student is ready for that, Sakura pointed out. Students are given their headbands in the graduation ceremony after their scores are looked over by the council and approved. How can you say you did something that's against the law? Eh, I'll wing it. Jiraiya-sama. Oh, stop worrying. I'll handle it. The worst that could happen is that I'll have to explain to the village what I did. I'd rather we not get into such a messy situation, so I'll get the old man to help me. If it doesn't work, oh well. So, we're not even born yet? That's so freaking weird. Naruto said, eyes wide and excited. This is the best idea you ever had, Eros-Nin. Awesome. Jiraiya chuckled. That's what I thought. I figured if nothing else it'd be fun. Plus, well, you'll all get to meet someone you know very well, but have never met. Did you by chance happen to look up at the Hokage monument while you were in the village? Yeah, Naruto said, so what? What did you see? Shodai-sama Sakura said, Nadame-sama Sandame-sama. Wait! Yandame-sama. The fourth's face wasn't there. That's right, Jiraiya said with a chuckle. And that's because he isn't Hokage yet. Seriously? Naruto cried. He isn't. Nope. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. And this time he's just plain old Namake's Minato. He's made a name for himself, but he isn't quite strong enough to succeed Sarutobi. Not yet. So Sasuke murmured, you used this jutsu to see Yandame again. Indeed. Minato was my student, you see. He invented the Rasengan. I am sure you remember that particular jutsu. Sasuke nodded, scowling. Oh yes. He did. Sakura seemed almost as excited as Naruto now. Ivy always wanted to know what kind of man Yandame-sama was. Can we go see him now? Is he in the village? Dunno, Jiraiya murmured thoughtfully. But I know who to ask. So, now that you know what sort of situation we're in right now, what say we get moving? Hi! Naruto and Sakura said enthusiastically. NGH, Sasuke grunted. Team Kakashi stood outside the Hokage's office as Jiraiya stormed in. The Sannin had claimed that it would be easier for now to keep Sandaime oblivious to their existence. It would be explained soon enough, he had said, and he really didn't want to deal with a headache. The four ninjas sighed. For Kakashi it was a reminder of just how irresponsible the white-haired man could be sometimes. For Sasuke and Sakura it was a reminder of just how similar he was to Naruto, which was basically the same as Kakashi's reaction actually. For Naruto it was the ruination of his plan to surprise the old man with a particular jutsu that he hadn't used in a long while. Hey old man. Long time no see. Where's that blonde idiot gone to? He really is like Naruto. Sasuke thought, shaking his head and marveling at the coincidence. Just as Tsunade seemed an older, more powerful, more experienced version of Sakura, and just as Orochimaru had seemed an older, more powerful and more experienced, and more psychotic version of himself, so too was Jiraiya to Naruto. History repeats itself. How true it was. Jiraiya. What a pleasant surprise. Yeah, well, I was in the neighborhood. So, where's my prize student, huh? You mean your only student? Sandaime replied caustically. TCH, Minato and his team have been on a mission for the past few days, but I'd expect them back sometime early this evening. Likely in a few hours. Well. Seems I have good timing. So it seems. What brings you back to the village anyway, Jiraiya? Oh, no particular reason. Just thought I'd check and see how you were holding up. Go drinking with Minato frightened the wits out of his genin, you know. Normal things. The last time you visited, you evidently had Minato's team playing strip poker atop the monument. On my head, no less. Jiraiya laughed. Oh yes. I remember that. Found out that little Ren's a bad gambler. Had his mask been slightly lower, the three genin would have seen Kakashi's face turn red. Yes. Minato mentioned that. Heh. Well, anyway, I suppose I'll just go for a walk around the village till the Flash gets back. Nice seeing you again, old-timer. You don't look all that young yourself anymore, Jiraiya. Older than I would have thought, actually. Seems you've been rather harsh on yourself. Yes, but at least I am not balding. Sandaime grumbled in response to that, and Jiraiya came sauntering out of the office with a grin on his face as if he had won some sort of contest. Winking at his four companions, he gestured for them to follow him. You know. Speaking of that little experiment, Jiraiya murmured thoughtfully as they walked, I remember hearing that you, were torn between choosing your mask or your pants when Obito hit you with that straight flush. Kakashi grunted. And that you have very pale legs. He choked. Naruto looked at his two teammates. Figures. Sasuke and Sakura agreed. Hey! What did you do that for? I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, you do, you jerk. You put that rock there on purpose. He did not. You just tripped over it because you weren't paying attention. Don't blame him for your own clumsiness. Nah, I know he did. You did, didn't you? Fess up. Could you, I don't know, try being quiet for once? Not unless you admit you put that rock there. Fine. I put the rock there. Ah. I knew it, I should have expected you wouldn't keep your word. Hey, Namikaze, Minato said, holding up his hands. Calm down, you guys, huh? You're giving me a headache. Obito, stop it. Kakashi didn't trip you, okay? It was just a rock. No way. The spiky-headed Uchiha cried indignantly. I am a ninja, sensei. I wouldn't trip on a rock. Stupid jerk, Kakashi put it there on purpose. Running a hand through his messy blonde hair, Minato sighed heavily. He never would have expected taking on a team of genin would be this much work. He'd been certain that watching over genin real ninja would be at least less of a headache than watching over normal children like he'd done in his youth, not entirely of his own volition. Kind of like now, but the combination of Uchiha, Obito, Hatake, Kakashi, and Rin, Minato often wondered what the girl's family name was, but he hadn't gotten around to asking, was trying on his patience. A lot of it was Obito, and though he wouldn't admit it out loud, the main reason the black-haired boy was so annoying was because he reminded Minato rather pointedly of himself. Since taking on this team, Konoha's Yellow Flash had slowly gained more and more respect and sympathy for his own teacher, though he'd never say it to the white-haired pervert's face. In retrospect, he really shouldn't have been as surprised as he was when said white-haired pervert's face actually appeared, as if out of thin air, right in front of his eyes. After all, he was a Jounin, now an elite shinobi, and elite shinobi didn't squeak when someone appeared suddenly in front of them. This Jounin did. SS-sensei? When did you show up? Obito screamed, and deep behind Rin, Kakashi rolled his eyes, but kept a tight hold on the kunai he now held in his right hand, and Rin looked about as helplessly frightened as a kicked puppy. And more than a little disgusted. Jiraiya grinned, showing far too many teeth, and chuckled in that odd low perverted way of his. Well, looky here. Been a while since I saw you kids. How are you doing? Obito screamed again. Minato smacked his forehead. His headache was never going to go away now. He just hoped he wouldn't have to explain to the Uchiha elders why Obito wasn't wearing any pants and laughing uproariously about how girly Kakashi's legs looked. Like the last time his sensei had decided to drop in. Chapter 4, Students and Teachers. He had been apprehensive about approaching them. Hatake Kakashi was able to hold back his fear, his nervousness, his anxiety, as well as any Jounin before him, perhaps better than most of them. When he was confronted with a mission, he carried it out without faltering in the slightest. But this was far more than he had ever anticipated he might confront. He found himself wishing that he had been asked to undertake the assassination of Orochimaru rather than this. The idea of seeing his old team again, while achingly tempting, was also incredibly daunting. He found his feet were anchored to the ground, and instead of moving out of hiding when Jiraiya called out, using the name Kimura, something he had evidently decided on at the last moment, he stayed stolid where he was. Sasuke brushed past his commander, followed closely by Sakura and Naruto, and Kakashi felt ashamed of himself. This was stupid. Why was he so nervous at the prospect of finally having the chance to see his closest friends again? It was completely incomprehensible. Sensei's on his way, Sakura said. Kakashi watched his team as Jiraiya introduced them. Jiraiya scowled. Where's that boy? Humph. Some Hatake or Kimura. He called out. Hatake? Kakashi heard a voice, a strange familiar young voice, repeat. This Kimura is a Hatake? Jiraiya nodded. Kind of a black sheep, if you will. You probably wouldn't know of him. Took me a whole hell of a lot of negotiating to get him to show his face around here again. And really he hasn't. He like Kakashi? Asked Obito with an annoyed frown. Hiding behind a mask all the time? Indeed. Hearing the Uchiha's voice again after over a decade made Kakashi's heart constrict with sudden pain, and he found himself short of breath. This was unacceptable. He stood up straight and walked out onto the path. Jiraiya chuckled inwardly when the three genins stared at him with fright. Oh sure, little Kakashi wasn't as much afraid as exasperated, but still. It was immensely pleasing to the Sannin to see children with proper respect for his reputation. Or if he couldn't get that, which he couldn't, respect for his inventive training exercises. Mato guy might like running around Konoha on his hands for 7 hours. But these three certainly hadn't. Oh calm down, Jiraiya said, finally rolling his eyes. The fun went away when they actually started crying. Kami-rin, you don't have to look at me like I am going to eat you. I am just dropping in to check on you guys. The young Kunoichi didn't look convinced. Minato crossed his arms, smirking slightly. Jiraiya-sensei. If there's one thing I know about you besides your psychosis, it's that you never visit anyone without a reason behind it. It's just not your way. So what is this? Jiraiya looked offended. He put a hand on his heart and stepped back. Why, Minato? How cold? I simply wanted to see how you were holding up is all. Uh-huh. Somehow the blonde man didn't look convinced either. Sighing, Jiraiya shrugged. Fine, fine. Too sharp for your own good, kid. There's an ulterior motive to my little visit today. I'd like you to meet a few people. Huh? Jiraiya laughed heartily. I've taken on new students. Didn't you hear? Ah. Well, maybe not. In any case, I thought I'd show them my handiwork from the past to show them that I am a superb teacher. You know, they're actually starting to doubt me. I wonder why. Minato muttered tonelessly. Obito snickered. Oi! Jiraiya called out. Kimura! Come on out, would ya? And bring the brats with you. When nothing happened for a moment, Jiraiya groaned. Of course he knew why Kakashi wasn't showing himself. He was nervous, anxious, apprehensive. And Jiraiya could understand that. He didn't allow himself to show it, but staring his former student in the face again was extremely taxing. He felt an overwhelming urge to grab the big blonde idiot and hug him tight enough to strangle him, to apologize for not being there in time to help him, for allowing him to die, for any number of things. No doubt Kakashi felt that same guilt. The problem, though, was the masked man's personality. Jiraiya, like Naruto, had long since learned to hide his own anxieties behind a grin. He forced himself to be outgoing, to be outlandish, to be crass and stupid, because he knew what happened if one let guilt overwhelm him. Tsunade had run away. Orochimaru had become a criminal. Sasuke almost done both. Yes. It was no wonder that Kakashi was still nowhere to be seen. TCH, Jiraiya scowled. Sakura came out of the brush, followed closely by her teammates. The four others looked at her with interest. Sensei's coming, she told Jiraiya. Well, anyway, I guess introductions are in order. This is Yamada, Sakura, Kazuhiko, Naruto, and Uchiha Sasuke. To the kids' credit, no expression passed their faces at the new completely false family names. He could half hear Naruto crying indignantly, how come Sasuke gets to keep his real name and we don't? But he didn't do that. Thank God. Guys, this is Rin, Uchiha Obito, Hatake Kakashi, and Namake's Minato. When exchanges of bows and hellos were exchanged and the newly christened Kimura hadn't shown himself yet, Jiraiya crossed his arms and sighed. Well, if there was one thing he had learned from Obito and Naruto both, it was that with people like Kakashi, or Sasuke for that matter, one way to get them to do what you wanted was to insult their courage. Where's that boy? Some Hatake or Kimura? The hermit snarled. Get out here! No one's gonna kill you on sight. What are you, a greenhorn genin? Hatake? The young silver-haired chunin was back to watching Jiraiya intently now. His eyes, both black, Jiraiya noticed and marveled at the sight. How long had it been since the last time he had seen Kakashi without Obito's Sharingan? Were slightly wider than normal. This Kimura is a Taki? Jiraiya grinned. MHM, kind of a black sheep if you will. You probably wouldn't know of him. Took me a whole hell of a lot of negotiating to get him to show his face around here again. And really he hasn't. He like Kakashi? Obito asked, frowning. Hiding behind a mask all the time? Indeed, Jiraiya nodded. According to Kimura, it is a tradition in the Ataki family. When a member becomes of age, he dons a mask. Kakashi nodded. Correct. Ninja are faceless weapons for the use of their employer. Their features serve no purpose other than to get them caught. That is what I was told. We wear these masks to keep ourselves unknown. That is. Correct, young one, said Kakashi's older self, finally showing himself, and there was only the slightest of quavers in his deep voice. However, ever since we stopped covering our entire bodies, the tradition has become not more than that. Any enemy worth his eyes will recognize a ninja who wears a mask which only covers part of his face. All eyes turned to the young jounin. Kakashi crossed his arms. I suppose you are correct. Would that be why you wear your Itai in such an odd manner? Kimura, Jiraiya had to start thinking of the man as having this name, or he would become hopelessly confused after a while, chuckled. Perhaps. But that's a secret I am not willing to disclose. Even if you are family. He looks pretty cool. Rin murmured thoughtfully under her breath. Yeah. Pulls off that mask a whole hell of a lot better, and you, Kakashi. Obito laughed, elbowing his teammate with a sneer. He looks good in it. Like a badass. You just look like a moron. Jiraiya had to bite his tongue to keep from laughing. Oh, the irony. So, you are Uchiha Obito, eh? Kimura murmured, cutting off Kakashi's sarcastic retort, and Jiraiya noted that he stuttered just slightly when saying the boy's name. Yeah, it's me. Obito said, proudly jabbing at himself with a thumb. Master of the Sharingan. The best ninja in history. How can you be a master at something you can't even use, Obito-kun? Rin posed. Hey! I will be. Sasuke smirked. An Uchiha shinobi unable to use the Sharingan? Aren't you supposed to be a chunin? Obito rounded on the other boy with a scowl. Hey! Back off, new guy. It ain't my fault. Sasuke crossed his arms and his smirk widened. I am sure. Who are you anyways? Obito asked suspiciously. You were the fan of the Uchiha on your shirt there, and the old perv said you was part of my clan, but I never seen you before. You were too young to have remembered, Sasuke, Jiraiya said. He's been training with me for a long time now. That long, huh, sensei? Minato asked, raising an eyebrow. Interesting. So are these new students of yours any good? Good? We're awesome. Naruto cried. We kick total ass. I am gonna be the next Hokage. Sasuke punched the back of Naruto's head. Lower your damn voice, dope. You're giving me a headache. Why you? I'll kick your boys, stop it, would you? Sakura said sharply. Be polite. Minato frowned. Deja vu. They are pretty similar, aren't they? Jiraiya asked. Although these three here are still genin. They've a lot of potential, though. Naruto can use a watered-down version of the Rasengan, and Sasuke has quite a bit of experience with the Sharingan. And Sakura, I am ashamed to admit, is probably smarter than you taught someone else my move, sensei? Minato interrupted, frowning again. His eyes sharpened, eyebrows lowered. Unlike before, he now looked like what he was. A jounin, a seasoned soldier primed for the position of Hokage. Even Jiraiya sobered, looking into those eyes. You didn't think it prudent to clear it with me? I don't want that information just floating around Konoha, you know. It's dangerous if used too often or incorrectly. That's true of many jutsu, Jiraiya said. Trust me. That kid can handle it. Said kid was still struggling to land a blow on Sasuke, but couldn't break free of Sakura's iron grip. Kakashi and Rin watched with amusement, seeing their hot-headed teammate in Naruto, and Obito watched with anger, seeing his arrogant teammate in Sasuke. Not to mention the pretentious little rookie had insulted him. Bastard. He can handle it. Somehow, I find myself fearing for the safety of Konoha if a loose cannon like him can use Rasengan. He's as loyal a soldier as you can get, Jiraiya assured. The last thing you need to worry about is that kid hurting anyone or anything in this village. Jiraiya was oddly serious when he said this, and it caught Minato's attention. His frown changed to a neutral line. All right. I'll trust you. But I still don't like it. Loosen up, kiddo. I wouldn't have taught him if I thought he would abuse it. He saved lives with that move. That made Minato's lips curl in the slightest of smiles, his mood lightening again. Oh? Well, that's good. Glad to hear that. Besides, you hypocrite, Jiraiya muttered, his serious mood evaporating. Naruto is just like you. You think you were any better at that age? Minato frowned again. Sighing and smiling a little again, he shrugged. No use fighting it. So, you say he can use a watered-down version. What do you mean? Naruto, Jiraiya said, and the blonde stopped fighting against his teammate's hold. He looked at him. Huh? Minato wants to see you use Rasengan. Show him, would you? Looking at the man as though he had just now realized he was in the immediate company of the inventor of his signature jutsu, the future Yondaime, he stared openly at Minato for a moment before grinning widely. You bet. He can use your jutsu, sensei? Rin asked, looking at Minato thoughtfully. So Jiraiya sensei says. Naruto took a deep breath, stepped away from the group, and faced a tree. Making the cross seal that no one in Konoha but him used anymore, he cried, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. And a clone appeared beside him. Minato's eyes widened slightly. Kage Bunshin? He repeated. Holding his hand to the side, Naruto waited as his clone manipulated the chakra in his palm until soon his swirling vortex of blinding blue energy was caught between his fingers. Rasengan! He shouted and shot forward, slamming his hand into the tree. Minato and his team stared at him for a long while. Naruto turned, looked at Minato, and chuckled somewhat nervously. There you go. Watered down. When you said that, I thought you meant in terms of power. Minato breathed. That was. It took me years to get it that strong. Took him a few weeks, Jiraiya said, and Minato whirled on him. Weeks? My God, what? Jiraiya grinned. Why do you think I took that bumbling idiot on as my student? Dumb as he acts sometimes, he's strong. And he has a lot of talent. TCH, I'll say. Hey! Don't call me an idiot, Erosanin. And with that, the last remnants of Minato's skepticism vanished in a fit of laughter. His entire mood had changed, and Jiraiya knew that Naruto had with that one name made a friend. Erosanin! Minato cried, holding his sides. Oh, that's great! I love it, I'll have to use that. Naruto grinned again, full force. Jiraiya scowled. TCH, figures. Obito frowned thoughtfully. Ero. Sanin? He let you call him that? Naruto snickered. Pfft. He tries to act all scary, but he's just an old pervert. Sasuke and Sakura nodded their agreement. Obito looked back at his teammates, remembering the sorts of things Jiraiya made them do when they annoyed him. And just how he forced them to do those things. Well, we know that, Rin said, but he doesn't. I mean, punish you? He tries to be tough, Sasuke muttered, but he's just as much an idiot as Dobe here. He smacked the back of Naruto's head again. Speaking of which, Jiraiya, did you, Jiraiya-sama, you ingrate? Did you actually set up a place for us to sleep tonight, or are we just going to camp out? We'll get a hotel room or something. Don't call me an idiot. Stop being one, Sasuke replied, echoing Naruto's own words from earlier that day. There was a stretch of quiet as Jiraiya and Sasuke stared each other down while Minato wiped tears from his eyes and flashed a thumbs up to Naruto. Obito grudgingly broke the silence. So, Sasuke, you can use the Sharingan? Chapter 5, Pillows, Ramen, and Memories. Orawari and I so adiru. Kuwait Myunga Karatatera no Sa. Tapping his foot in tune with the rhythm in his head, Minato mumbled the words under his breath before lifting up his chopsticks and slurping up the noodles in one quick motion, a thoughtful expression on his face as he chewed. A decidedly unfavorable expression rose on his face, and he glared at the bowl in his hand as if it had insulted him. Why does this stupid hotel never cook this stuff right? Naruto too looked perturbed, inspecting the chunk of meat caught between his own chopsticks. They call this miso? Tastes like liquefied rubber. The noodles don't have the right consistency either. They're too tough. One of mine was crunchy, Naruto declared with a scowl. Minato shook his head in disgust. This tastes like that instant stuff they sell at convenience stores. Cooked the wrong way. Yeah, Naruto agreed, but it's like they took the little seasoning packet from a bunch and mixed them together. I can taste beef and chicken in this. And that oriental flavor too. And too salty. Like they added more. You're not supposed to add salt to ramen for the love of. Why would anyone do that? There's enough salt in it already. And you know, I taste shrimp or something too. These people are just throwing 7 different kinds of ramen into the pot and calling it done. Naruto took another bite and frowned. 8. Surprised Minato followed suit. Hey! You're right! It was about then that the pair noticed 7 pairs of eyes on them. They turned identical expressions of surprise on their faces. Oh great! Rin muttered as she rolled her eyes. He's a ramen junkie too? Sakura nodded. Yep. We're not junkies. Naruto and Minato snapped at the same time. The blonde jounin cleared his throat. I am a ramen connoisseur, thank you very much. Yeah. Naruto nodded his agreement. Connoisseur. Do you even know what that means? Sakura asked. Sure I do. It's what I am. The pink-haired Kunoichi rolled her eyes and was about to say something else, but Jiraiya interrupted. Hey, what was that you were mumbling just now, kid? Huh? Minato raised an eyebrow. Oh. Just a song I heard on my mission. Thought it was kinda catchy. I got the album, Obito said proudly. It rocks. There was a long silence as Kakashi and Rin lent identical looks of disdain tinged with disbelief to their gobble-clad teammate. Obito, completely oblivious, looked at the pair with wide eyes. What? Disgusted grunts. What? Rolling of eyes. Oh come on, what? That, Rin finally said, was the dumbest pun I've ever heard. Even you can do better than that, Obito-kun. Huh? What are you talking about? I just said. Rocks is the name of the song, you idiot, Kakashi muttered. Huh? Obito blinked. It is? I didn't know that. Did you even look at the back of the case at the track listing? No? Rin threw a pillow at him. Naruto heaved a sigh of relief. Phew. Attention off me. Minato frowned. Ramen still tastes terrible. Yeah. Rin threw 2 pillows at them. Hey! Minato snapped, picking up the now ramen-drenched pillow that had assaulted his face. Throwing it back at his student, he growled, "That one's yours." Naruto glanced at his bowl, sniffed, and handed it to Minato. Here. Eh? Oh. Thanks. Sucks anyway. True. Almost makes me want to vomit, really. Minato picked up his fallen chopsticks and began to eat again. Yep, he declared with a mouth filled with undercooked noodles. Terrible. Absolutely disgusting. Sasuke shook his head. Ugh. They're both helpless. Kakashi sighed. Sometimes I wonder how that man became a jounin. He didn't catch the odd look Sasuke gave him. Kimura gave Sasuke a look that said, "Don't say a word." All in all, it was a pretty normal evening. So, sensei, why'd you take on new students anyway? Jiraiya shrugged, gazing at the moon. Always said I'd never find another big blonde dolt like you. But I was wrong. Figured I'd try again, see if this one would turn out any better. He hasn't, but hey, I am used to it. You know, Okage-sama told me I am one of the prime candidates for his successor. So, I am not exactly a failure. Sarutobi senile Jiraiya muttered. Let that chain-smoking son of his into the ranks of the Chunin, didn't he? He's senile and soft. He probably just said that so he wouldn't hurt your feelings. Asuma isn't a bad ninja, you know. He's pretty good. He'll probably make Jounin in a couple years. All the more proof that this village is going downhill, Jiraiya said. If that lazy little brat makes it into the elite. TCH. Well, whatever. Out of my hands anyway. Minato chuckled and followed his teacher's gaze. I like these new kids of yours. A bit strange. But there's a certain sort of camaraderie about them. Like my own students. Naruto and Sasuke would never admit it, but they're each other's best friend, Jiraiya said. They push each other. Force each other to get better. I think that's why I didn't separate them even though it seemed hopeless. I am starting to think the same of Kakashi and Obito. They seem to enjoy their verbal sparring. And it seems like every time I turn around they have some new trick up their sleeves. It's never boring, at least. They're always doing something interesting. Minato chuckled. And that Naruto kid really is like me, isn't he? Oh yes. One of the first things I noticed about him. Loud, abrasive, yet somehow lovable idiot. Ramen lover. And too damn energetic for his own good. If I didn't know any better, I'd think he was your son. Minato was looking away and didn't see the amused grin suddenly spread on Jiraiya's lips as he said that. By the time he looked back, the grin was gone. I think I am gonna like that kid. You don't seem to like Obito all that much, and he's the same. Oh, I like Obito just fine. But something about Naruto's just appealing. He knows about ramen? That's probably part of it. Well, yeah. He's a good kid. And even though his teammates give him a hard time, I am pretty sure they like him. They just don't want to admit it. Shaking his head, Minato laughed. God. It's like they've been reborn into different bodies. Hell, they almost have the same haircuts. Just dye Naruto's hair black, Sasuke's silver, and Sakura's brown, and nobody would be able to tell the difference. It is kind of scary. You know, they say when you meet someone that reminds you of yourself, you either bond immediately or hate his guts. Hopefully these guys will bond. They turned and looked in the window at the 6 young ninja. Rin and Sakura had ganged up on Naruto and Obito and were beating them mercilessly with pillows while Sasuke and Kakashi watched from the other side of the room. I think they're bonding, Minato murmured. Naruto, in a last-ditch attempt to escape death by feathers, jumped up onto the ceiling and flipped upside down using chakra to keep himself up. Running away from the 2 kunoichi, he turned around and laughed at them. Rin launched her pillow at Naruto with deadly accuracy, and it hit him square in the face, causing him to fall from his perch onto the laps of Sasuke and Kakashi, who grunted in surprise and pain. Glancing at each other, the 2 black-eyed ninja picked Naruto up and held his arms. Naruto strained against the hands holding him in place, but couldn't. Sakura and Rin grinned at each other and started stalking toward the struggling blonde. Obito struck them both from behind, and they whirled on him again. Jiraiya chuckled. Yeah. They're bonding. Think we should save them before they start losing teeth? I guess so. We're fine, Sensei. Rin assured with a grin when the Jounin stepped back into the room, tossing her pillow into Obito's face, who woofed and fell backward off of the bed and smacked his head on the wall. Ow! Rin, did you use chakra to throw that thing? Yes. Obito popped his head up from behind the bed. Hey! That wasn't fair. Minato rubbed his chin. Well, as much as I don't like to see my subordinates hurt, Obito coughed in what sounded suspiciously like liar. I suppose I should commend you in using chakra in such a manner. Very smart. Good job, Rin. Sakura-san told me about it, Rin said. It sounded like a good idea. I think my goggles are broken. Jiraiya sighed and glanced at Sasuke. What's been happening in here? Animal cruelty, Sasuke muttered. Hey! Obito and Naruto both snarled. Minato snorted laughter. God! This is great! He muttered under his breath. Okay, he said in a louder voice, it's getting late, and if we aren't in Sandame's office by 6 tomorrow, they'll probably send an umbu out to look for us. So, how about we all get some shut-eye now, before we have to make a trip to the hospital first? You know, Naruto mumbled, climbing into the bed he had claimed for himself. I never thought being a ninja would mean I'd still have a bedtime. He was asleep in 7 seconds. Nobody said anything about the fact that he was resting his head on the pillow of bad ramen, because really, he didn't seem to care. Once Obito laid himself down, he followed Naruto's example and was asleep immediately. Sasuke and Kakashi simply closed their eyes and leaned back against the wall. Jiraiya and Minato glanced at each other and shrugged. Think they're trying to prove something? Minato murmured. Probably. Sakura and Rin decided to share the last bed, and Minato and Kimura both clapped a hand over Jiraiya's mouth before he could say anything. Come on, Sensei, Minato said, let's go sleep outside, shall we? It's a warm night, and I don't feel like sleeping on this cramped floor space. Let's go! They dragged the red-faced, giggling Sannin out of the room. Something about the moon makes for solemn conversation, huh? Jiraiya asked as Kimura approached him. Seems that way. Already had a talk with Minato earlier, you know, when the pillow war was going on. Where were you during that anyway? Getting a drink. Anyway. Just how long does this jutsu last? From what I could gather, as long as we want it to. So what? We just... live as have been? Pretty much. Kimura turned to the moon and sighed. Now that I've seen them again, it feels just like old times. I almost feel like joining my younger self in berating Obito. Jiraiya chuckled. That really wouldn't be fair, would it? Obito gave you many things. Not just your Sharingan. Maybe you should take his side to make him feel better. After all, you believe many of the same things he does now. Kimura chuckled. Defend him? Back him up when he begins one of his impassioned speeches? Why not? You're Ataki Kimura now. No problem. You can do just about anything you want. Now, me on the other hand, I have to act like myself. Much as I'd like to ruffle that goggle-headed moron's hair and tell him he's a good kid and I really don't hate him. Can't act like that. Wouldn't seem right. You liked Obito as much as we did, didn't you, Jiraiya-sama? Yeah. Good kid. But I didn't realize how good till I got the message from Minato that he'd died. I guess that's just how life works. You don't know what you have until you lose it, you know. And you don't realize just how true that old saying is until you experience it. Kimura nodded. If I'd known he was going to die. If I'd known he was willing to sacrifice himself for his friends, I am sure I wouldn't have mocked him as much as I did. Anyone willing to die for what they believe in is worthy of respect, no matter who they are. Jiraiya smiled slightly. This is strange. I wasn't sure what to expect when I did this. But it just seems normal. The old routine. It doesn't feel like anything's changed. Kimura agreed, nodding. Indeed. And I for one am glad for it. It feels right. It's funny. All the things Minato used to do that annoyed me just make me want to laugh now. Everything I used to get angry about makes me smile. I feel like a sap. Kimura smiled beneath his mask. Yes, well, death changes one's perspective. Jiraiya nodded. They looked at each other. Say, Jiraiya murmured. What say we? Make ourselves useful while we're here? How? The Sannin chuckled. We have knowledge no one else does. We should put it to good use. You know, in every book or movie I've ever seen with time travel, changing the past to affect the future never turns out well. That's because the people who try it are stupid. Civilians. We're shinobi. We can do it. We've got plenty of time, you know. So, let's do it. I suppose. It's worth a try. Chapter 6, Planning Ahead. A success, I assume? Minato, hands in the pockets of his pants, nodded with a grin. Sure thing, Sandame. The kids did a great job. Nobody suspected a thing. They can play the innocent child act pretty well. Running a hand through his graying brown hair, Sandame nodded with a slight smile and blew a cloud of smoke out of one side of his mouth. Good. That's fine. So, any substantial information? No, not really. They're tight-lipped about it. Plus, people usually aren't exactly comfortable with talking about a pending war around children and anyone my age they're suspicious of. So, we didn't get much. They did dance around a lot of our questions, though. Like they were nervous. Looking over the stack of papers Minato had handed him, Sandame nodded. I had figured that. You did well, though. If nothing else, it reaffirms my suspicion that the Hidden Rock is planning something. Thank you. Take a couple days off to rest and train, eh? Minato nodded. Yeah, sir. Thank you, sir. Continuing to go through the pages of the Jounins report, Sandame nodded. You're dismissed, Minato. Thank you, sir. Minato repeated and set down a small slip of paper on the man's desk before leaving. Old man, I have 3 new students with me right now, all of them 12 years old, and one of them is an Uchiha. The clan won't recognize him, however, and he isn't in the records, so I'll need your assistance when and if they decide to bring up the matter with you. Just tweet things or something. His name is Sasuke. Yashiro probably reported him to you or one of your adjutants a little while ago. I'll explain the details later when I have the time to go into detail. Thanks in advance. The great Jiraiya-sama. Frowning, Sandame rubbed his bearded chin, reading and rereading the small message written in his former student's oddly precise flowing handwriting. He did remember something Uchiha Yashiro had told him the previous day about someone wearing the Uchiha insignia, but he hadn't heard the boy's name. Sasuke, huh? Him. He was curious, but if there was one thing the elite ninja had learned in all his years of dealing with Jiraiya, it was that when he asked you to do something, you did it. Sandame could only think of about 3 times Jiraiya had ever asked him to do something in all the time they'd done business together from his academy days until now. He would only ask for a favor if it was very, very important. Sandame decided he would go over the birth records from 12 years past and add in the name Sasuke later on in the day. Whatever the reason, Jiraiya obviously needed this done. He wondered why. I gave him the note like you asked, Sensei. Minato said. What was it about anyway? Just a bit of old business, Jiraiya said. Personal, you know. Oh. Huh. Okay then. The pair walked over to where Kimura and the others were, a newly established stand in the middle of the village called simply Ichiraku Ramen. The proprietor was unsatisfied with his current location, though, as there was little daily traffic, and planned to move to a better place in the village when he had enough money to afford a bigger stand. Minato had yet to try the food there, but he heard good things, and after Naruto had assured him that it was the best ramen ever, he decided to have lunch there. Naruto was just as particular about his ramen as Minato was, so anything he endorsed was likely to be heavenly. Minato wondered, though, just how Naruto knew it was so good. When had he been there? The 6 young ninjas sat at the stand with Kimura eating already when Minato and Jiraiya showed up. There was only one remaining stool, and Jiraiya motioned for his student to take it. Kimura, Jiraiya said, are you finished? Yes. Come on. I have to talk to you about something. Nodding, the masked Jounin left with him. Long after the others had finished, Minato and Naruto continued to ask for more. By the end of an hour, Minato had tried and adored every variety available at the small stand 2 times over. My God, this is good, the blonde man said with a wide grin, and Naruto nodded emphatically. He had said this enough times to make the cook blush. Yeah, we heard, Sensei Obito muttered, wiping off his goggles with a napkin. Great. You like the ramen? Hoo-hoo! I mean, geez. Rin added. Yeah, it was great food, no doubt about that, but how many bowls have you had? Minato tapped each empty bowl. 9, 10, 11. And Naruto-kun has had 14. Yeah, whatever. Minato waved it off. I just got paid, it's no big deal. Come down, huh? So you're buying? Sure. I'll be generous. Might as well. I already have to buy a ton of M4, or so more won't make any difference. But, you're full, aren't you? We've been done for at least a half hour now. Good. Okay then. Sasuke stood up suddenly. Thank you for the meal, Minato-sama, he said quietly, and his teammates looked at him oddly for a moment. I am going to find Kimura. He left without another word. Minato-sama? Naruto repeated. Since when, Sasuke, all respectful? Sakura shrugged. I guess he's heard about Minato-sama's reputation. You're going to try at being Sandaime-sama's successor, aren't you? Minato nodded. That's right. This village has been running the same way for years. I respect Sarutobi, but I've got some changes I plan to make. The mannerisms of the Hyuga, for example. He stirred his ramen with his chopsticks as he looked up at the Hokage monument, thinking. There was a minute or so of silence. Speaking of stuffed shirt dignitaries, Obito said finally, I gotta get home, sensei. Thanks for paying. It's still early, Obito. I'd hoped for us to get some training in today. Yeah, well. Later. Last time I was late, Mom almost bit my head off. Obito stood up and scrunched up his face, speaking in a squeaky, high-pitched, grating voice. Just because you're a ninja doesn't mean you don't have responsibilities here at the house, Obi-kun. Do you have any idea how hard it is to keep this place running? Minato snickered. Your mother's a fiery one, I'll say that. Wouldn't want you getting into hot water with her. Go on, Obi-kun. Say hi to Mommy. Obito scowled. Hey, shut up. I keep telling her to stop calling me that, but she don't listen. You'll always be my little baby, Obi-kun. I am your mother, I can call you what I want. Sheesh. Treating me like a kid half the time and a slave the other half. Why am I too young for her to call me by my name, but not young enough to get out of chores on top of my being a ninja? I am a freaking chunin now. You'll want to get technical, I am her superior. She hasn't passed the chunin exam. But no! She can still boss me around because I am your mother. Rin was smiling. She knows how to put you in your place, Obito-kun. My place is in the military. I shouldn't have to do dishes and change diapers. Can't handle a diaper, Obito? Kakashi murmured softly. Sounds as though she doesn't know your place. If you weren't man enough to handle simple chores, you shouldn't be in our military. I ain't seen you volunteering, Kakashi. So don't act all high and mighty on me. Now, Minato said. That's enough. Go on, Obito. See if you can come out later today. Tell them I called for you if you can't get away. Obito grinned. Thanks. That usually works. He turned away back in his mocking tone. Where have you been? I've been slaving over this stove getting dinner ready for your father and uncle, and you're off wandering the village? Get moving, mister. You've got work to do. And give Itachi-chan his bottle, would you? He's been crying for the last 2 minutes. And stop antagonizing him. He's just a baby. And he's your cousin, so be nice. Minato rolled his eyes. I am beginning to think he needs some sort of sedative. I should see if Tsunade-chan has any ideas. Then again, how long's it been since she came to visit? Maybe Shikaku has something. He's lazy enough and he knows about medicines. Glancing back at the younger ninja, he noticed Sakura was slightly pale. Sakura? What's wrong? Upset stomach? And no, Minato-sama. Sorry. Naruto, could you come with me for a minute? Huh? Oh sure, Sakura-chan. You bet. Kakashi. Turning Kimura, he was even starting to think of himself by this name, raised his visible eyebrow at his black-haired student. Yes? I need to start training again soon. I assume you want to keep your Sharingan a secret, so. What will we end up doing? Meeting in secret? Probably. For now, though, I'd just suggest working on something else. Maybe even try helping Obito with his Sharingan. You'd be surprised how much you learn when teaching someone else. Sasuke frowned. Maybe. He did ask me. There you go then. Do that. Jiraiya, standing nearby, crossed his arms. Don't tell him where you learned, though. If he presses you for answers, say I taught you with scrolls and interviews and such. I've a reputation after all, so no one will wonder about that. Letting slip that you learned from Kakashi will raise questions that shouldn't be answered quite yet. Sasuke considered this, then nodded. Fine. I'll do that. But if he gets too annoying, I am dropping this whole thing. He's just like dope. And I don't know how long I'll be able to train him if he isn't a quick study. Like you said, Jiraiya said. He's like Naruto. He's a quick study. He just hasn't had a chance to learn from one of the elders. Nobody wants to teach him until he proves himself. NNH. He left. So what's up, Sakura-chan? Wipe that grin off your face, Naruto. This is serious. Blank-faced, the blonde raised an eyebrow. Huh? Did you hear Obito? Itachi. You know Sasuke-kun's older brother? He's here. In the village. Yeah? So? Naruto. What? He was talking about Itachi crying for a bottle. He's a baby here, you know. What trouble's he gonna cause? Sakura fumed, turning away from her teammate with a concerned look on her face. I am worried. What happens when Sasuke-kun finds out? He probably hasn't realized this yet. What happens when he does? Naruto shrugged. I dunno. But I don't see what the big deal is. Not like we can go killing him or something. I don't think the Uchihasa'll appreciate that. But, what if we tell them what'll happen? Who's gonna believe us, Sakura-chan? They'll just think we're nuts. Sakura took a moment to be disgusted with herself because Naruto was being the voice of reason, but still. This was big. Huge. Gargantuan even. But we could do something. We could stop him. Uh-huh. Well, when you come up with an idea, you tell me. Was that all you wanted to talk about? 'Cause my ramen's getting cold. Yeah, I guess. But Naruto shrugged. I mean, unless you want to take a walk or something. Think it over. Glaring at the blonde whose lips were curled in the slightest of smirks, she clenched her fists. Watch it, Naruto. Don't you try anything. What? Naruto asked innocently. Just concerned is all. Uh-huh. And Jiraiya-sama just conducts research. Try it on someone else, Naruto. I know what you're trying. Fine. No walk. Let's go back then. She sighed. Okay. I guess. I'll just try to think of something. But don't tell Sasuke-kun. If he doesn't realize it yet, he won't do anything, but if we tell him, he'll do something stupid. Yeah, I get it. Sure. As they walked back, Sakura thought that if she weren't so suddenly nervous about her black-haired, black-eyed teammate's welfare, she might have actually been impressed with Naruto. He had his moments of level-headedness. There were times when he seemed wise beyond his years, as if he really had learned something from his three mentors. Sakura-chan, you sure you don't want me to take a walk with you? You could rest your head on my shoulder if you want. She punched him. Chapter 7 Training. You. Sometimes I really hate that little snot. Giggles too damn much. What the hell's so funny about my hair? Didn't feel all that funny to me. Obito shuffled down the main street of the Uchiha district in the general direction of Minato's favorite training ground, rubbing his head and wondering if his oh-so-delightful baby cousin had given him any premature bald spots, grumbling under his breath as he was wont to do after an afternoon of working around the house. For other shinobi, a day off meant relaxation, a chance to unwind. But for Uchiha Obito, no such luck. For him, a day off meant home duty, cleaning and babysitting, and any number of other such menial tasks that should have been long behind him. So much for adult responsibilities. What a crock! Evidently, when the Hokage had told them they were adults, he hadn't put thought to the women of the Uchiha clan who, despite all that ceremonial garbage about serving the patriarch and rearing the future generations, with a firm but gentle hand ran the place with an iron fist that forced said future generations into slave labor. Obito had a feeling that even his father danced on their strings. It was extremely disheartening, honestly. He felt like he had no future, like his entire life would be spent not saving the village and ensuring his eternal memory in the hearts of his adoring people. No, it would be spent elbow-deep in soap-choked water. He wondered if the problem was that his mother kept forgetting the same thing everyone else seemed to. Then he had passed the Chunin exam. He had lost count of the number of times Minato still referred to them as his Genin team, and numerous other older shinobi had done the same. Honestly, what the hell was wrong with them? Were they that surprised that he had become a Chunin that they didn't allow themselves to believe it? Sighing as though he were some long-suffering martyr unaware, or refusing to admit, that the thoughts running through his head were far too melodramatic to be the truth, Obito stuffed his hands into his pockets and fished around, noting that he had some coins in the right, and a stick of gum in the left that he hadn't been aware of. Popping the gum in his mouth, Obito chewed methodically. Oi! Obito! Flinching slightly, his pride did not allow anything more than that, Obito looked behind him to see Sasuke walking up behind him. He stopped. Oh! Sasuke! What you want? Sasuke slowed his stride when he caught up with the older Uchiha. Kimura suggested that I seek you out, he said. Eh? What for? Training. Training? Oh. Ooh. I see. So you want my expertise, huh? Want I should help you out? Teach you the ways of the ninja world? Sasuke scowled. No. He sent me to train you. H.A. What the? That's not funny. No. It's not. I wasn't entirely thrilled with the idea either, but I've got no one to train me right now, and Kimura said I should train someone myself to further my ability. But why not one of the academy brats then? I don't need no training from no genin. I learned all I needed. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Oh? It seems you didn't learn how to harness the Sharingan. Did you? Obito stopped short, eyes widening. W.A.? You mean? Whoa, wait, hold on. You're gonna... Sasuke turned his head over his shoulder. I don't want a member of my clan sullying the Uchiha name by being anything less than elite. So you're going to have to learn to use the power in your blood. How long have you been able to use it? A few months. Is it fully formed? Fully formed? No. Manjikyu is still beyond me. But I don't intend to learn that anyway. Not anymore. But, according to most members of the clan, yes, it's fully formed. Manjikyu. Obito whispered. I thought the technique was just a myth. Sasuke shook his head. No. It's real. And it's extremely dangerous even to the user. So I've decided not to attain it. Obito had no reason to believe Sasuke was lying, and so didn't realize the real reason Sasuke had decided against gaining the Manjikyu Sharingan. The reason he barely even admitted to himself, much less anyone else. Whoa. Crazy. So Sasuke continued, hands fisted at his hips. Shall we begin then? Hell yeah. Let's go. Sasuke smirked. Fine then. We'll start immediately. Awesome. Obito was suddenly in a much better mood than he had been. The Sharingan. He would finally learn it after all this time of trying on his own. He suddenly thought that this newcomer wasn't as stuck-up and snotty as he had thought. Maybe this Sasuke was a pretty good guy after all. Naruto would have scoffed and rolled his eyes if he had heard that, and probably would have said something along the lines of, Sasuke ain't no good guy. He's just trying to show off. But the point was, he finally had someone willing to teach him. Suddenly today felt like the best day ever. Even with the headache Itachi had given him. Minato scowled. This is ridiculous. Where's that damn boy? I know his mother's a bit of a slave driver sometimes, but come on. I'd venture to think he's with Sasuke, Jiraiya said, and Minato turned to look at him. Kimura and I suggested that Sasuke train Obito to use his Sharingan. They're probably off doing just that. Oh. Well, if that's the case, then I guess he won't be around today. I guess that works out well enough. So what do we do then, Sensei? Rin asked. Minato rubbed his chin. Well, let's see. Kimura? The gray-haired man looked up. HM? You're a Jounin, aren't you? That's right. Then, how about you help me out a bit today? Kakashi's more advanced than Rin is. He could stand some more strenuous training, and given that you're Ataki as well, I think you'd be good. Kimura shrugged. Fine by me. Sakura? Huh? It seems you know some rather advanced techniques yourself from what Jiraiya-sensei has told me. Rin could learn from you. You guys should train together. Both Kunoichi nodded. Okay, they said. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Why the grouping up of trainees and trainers, Minato? This isn't your usual method. No, it isn't. But I think for now it'll do us good. So what about me? Naruto piped up. What should I do? You Naruto-kun come with Jiraiya-sensei and me. Your use of Manjutsu is impressive, especially given your age, but your method needs work. Using a clone to manipulate your chakra slows you down quite a bit. We need to see about teaching you to do it yourself. So, you're gonna train me? I made up the move. It stands to reason I'd be the one to train you in its use. Jiraiya murmured. I see. So this is why you're splitting up your squad today. You want to focus on this? Minato nodded. It's foolish to leave him with so much of the jutsu mastered and that crucial part ignored. He's needlessly crippled right now. Oh, I agree. You make sense, kid. Might as well. Minato nodded. Okay. You all know your assignments. Kakashi Rin, I expect to see some sort of improvement over the next few days. Hi, Sensei, both Chinen replied. You know, Minato, it'll take Naruto a lot longer to get this down than a few days. True, but we can start. Besides, from what you said earlier, I am not so sure it'll take him all that long at all. Certainly he'll get it faster than I did. Let's do this. Naruto cried, pumping his fist in the air. The sooner we start, the sooner I'll master it. I am gonna make your guys' Rasengan look like nothing. Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Can't deny it's refreshing to see that kind of enthusiasm, Minato said. He's about as spirited as that guy Kid. I told you about him, didn't I? Oh yes, you did. Jiraiya muttered. Sounds like a pain. He made Genin yet? Yeah, that's right. I forget who he's training under, but he passed this year. From what I hear, he's shaping up to be quite adept at hand-to-hand. Taijutsu by itself doesn't make anyone a good ninja, Jiraiya muttered. Huh? Naruto asked, incredulous. But what about Fuzzy Brows? Sakura gave him a hard stare. Jiraiya's face remained impassive. I don't think that's his name, you know. And anyway, as good as he was, he's a rarity. In general, a shinobi should be balanced. Who are you talking about? Minato asked. Oh, just some kid we came across near the Wind Country. Very thick eyebrows. Kinda creepy looking. Anyway, never mind. This isn't really relevant. Minato nodded, and when he turned to say something to his students again, Jiraiya mouthed, watch what you say. To Naruto, who nodded with a sheepish grin on his face. All right. Let's go somewhere more open, Minato said. Last thing we need is a bunch of debris. Naruto nodded enthusiastically and practically skipped after the two older ninja, humming to himself and swinging his arms. Kimura glanced at Kakashi, and they both headed off in another direction without a word. Sakura watched them leave. Not the talkative type, is he? Kakashi-kun? Rin asked. No. He's generally pretty quiet. He looks the type, Sakura noted. Ever since our squad was formed, Kakashi-kun has been that way. He fights with Obito-kun a lot, but other than that he doesn't really say much to anyone. Sounds familiar. Well, anyway, shall we get started? Sure. Sasuke stopped walking in the midst of an open field with 3 posts in the center of it. Obito looked around, not recognizing the place. Why here? He asked. Sasuke shrugged. Why not? He couldn't argue with that logic. So, how do we start? Tell me something, Obito. How were your grades at the academy? Surprised at the question, Obito nonetheless answered. Not too good. Why? What's that matter? Sasuke glared over his shoulder at the older boy. That's a stupid question. But regardless of that, the answer's good enough for me. I suppose I should go easy on you then. Obito scowled. Hey! Don't take me lightly, man. Turning, Sasuke's black eyes seemed to bore into Obito's soul. Obito, you need to understand something. You're like Naruto, even your commander says so. That leads me to believe that you lack discipline and only fight with raw passion. Is that about right? I guess so. With a man such as Minato-sama accompanying you on your missions, perhaps that passion is enough. But if you want to be good enough to be able to use the Sharingan, then you need to learn that it isn't enough. Not in the long run. You may be like Naruto, but you're not him. And that means you won't survive long if you don't shape up. Obito's scowl deepened. What's so great about him? Sure, he can use Sensei's jutsu, but that ain't much. Sasuke smirked. I have met numerous shinobi in my life that have been able to defeat me strong as I thought I was. Naruto beat them all. All except one, but that one does not discount the heart of the matter. He is a rare exception to a general rule that you need to understand passion must be tempered by discipline in order to be effective. Obito's scowl vanished in surprise. The look in Sasuke's eyes made him seem much older than his 12 years. He seemed decades older. He realized that while Sasuke might be younger than he, that didn't mean he wasn't experienced. Quite the contrary. Is that right? So what's that mean to me? I gotta train harder? Is that what you're getting at? Partly. Sasuke sighed, arms flat at his sides, and looked Obito straight in the eye. Sandaime evidently deemed you good enough to rise to the Chunin level, something I cannot claim for myself. But don't think you won't learn anything from me. Or you'll end up hurt. You trying to scare me, or do you just like hearing yourself talk? A soft chuckle. A habit I picked up from an instructor of mine, I guess. He liked to talk. He talked too much. But that doesn't matter. Okay, so we gonna start training now? Sasuke grinned, and it made him look predatory. Obito took an involuntary step back. Yes. The younger ninja flew at him like a hawk, eyes glowing red. Chapter 8: The Rasengan's Legacy. A ninja must never show emotion. There were any number of rules in shinobi society that Jiraiya refused to acknowledge, whether it be by intentional ignorance, accidental ignorance, mischievous defiance, or simple lack of caring. And while that rule was one that he, unlike many of his comrades, admitted was not humanly possible, it was one of the very few that he fervently believed in. At one point he hadn't, and the turning point was a single event that he would never forget, no matter how hard he tried. And as he watched his first student laugh and joke and argue with his second, the son he didn't even know he had, Jiraiya remembered yet again. Remembered that if he'd only kept his emotions in check, Minato wouldn't have died with a broken heart. Sensei. Tell Kushina that I love her. And that I am sorry. The ceiling had taken all of the fourth Hokage's energy, and the life was fading fast in his eyes, and it took all of his remaining breath to say those final words. To make that final request. And Jiraiya had had enough tact in him not to tell his prized protege that his wife had died not an hour before. It just hadn't helped any. His eyes had said it clearer than his voice ever could have. Minato's last moments were filled with self-loathing. For all the wonderful memories he had given his teacher, Jiraiya himself couldn't even let Minato die in peace. Holding a body so weak when once it had strength to rival the gods of myth, and at one time above all others when he needed to live up to his reputation as one of the Sannin, when he needed all the strength and wisdom and experience he had garnered in his decades as a soldier, Jiraiya had failed. Failed miserably. And as always, it was the ones he loved that were hurt by that failure. People wondered why Jiraiya drank as much as he did. Sighing heavily, the frog hermit shook his head and marveled at his own stupidity. Here he was with the chance to revisit his past, to relive his memories, to remember the greatest moments of his life. A chance God only knew how many people would kill for, and he was dwelling on the ones he wanted desperately to forget. You're an idiot, Jiraiya. A great moron. And then he realized just how true that was. He'd said it once. He had a chance to change things. This was the past. There was no reason that things would have to happen that way again. have knowledge no one else does. I have plenty of time. He murmured, repeating to himself the words he'd said the night before. His eyes hardened. If Sandaime Tsunade or Orochimaru would have been around to see the expression on Jiraiya's face, they would have known instantly what it meant. And even Jiraiya's hot-headed, generally insane, or completely insane in Orochimaru's case, teammates would have admitted that when Jiraiya had that sort of look in his eyes, it meant only one thing: he was stone-cold serious, and that was a good thing. Even they would have admitted that this meant Jiraiya had made a promise. Not just any promise either. Not the sort of promise that he would break if he found a new well-endowed, scantily clad cutie to occupy his imagination for the day. Not the sort of promise he would brush off as unimportant if it turned out to be more trouble than he'd expected. This was the sort of promise that was made in the deepest recesses of his being, in the very depths of his soul. And whenever Jiraiya made such a promise, nothing would stop him from seeing it through. Nothing. Minato, I swear to you, things won't happen this way again. You won't lose your students this time. You won't lose your wife. You won't have to die. I swear it. And it was only when he had rooted his feet in the reality of that oath, steeled himself against whatever repercussions that would come from that oath, and gritted his teeth against whatever sacrifices he would have to make to carry out that oath, did Jiraiya allow himself to laugh and joke along with his students. So Naruto-kun, tell me, where exactly did you come up with the idea of using a clone for this jutsu? Naruto scratched the back of his head, puzzled. You know, I don't really remember too much about that. It was a cat, Jiraiya said, walking up to join them. He figured out how to rotate his chakra in different directions by watching a cat play with a water balloon. Minato frowned. So, the clone takes the role of a playing cat. I am not sure I get it. It's how he manages to make it into a workable form. The hermit continued, having a Kage Bunshin both rotate and condense his chakra. He can't do it with a single hand, he needs assistance. So he called on his other signature jutsu. Naruto frowned and nodded. Yeah. Okay. Stepping back, the blonde Jounin crossed his arms. I see. You know, Sensei, it probably wasn't a good idea to let him take such a shortcut. He should have learned how to rotate and condense chakra using only one hand. Perhaps Jiraiya conceded, shrugging, but I decided to let it slide. It's worked for him so far. Besides, now he knows the way it works. In a fashion, but it's still the wrong way to go about it. He's grown used to doing it his own way. Haven't you, Naruto-kun? Naruto nodded. Well, sure. And because of that, it'll be harder to learn it the right way. Habits are hard to break, Sensei. Especially bad ones. You of all people should understand that. I'll pretend you didn't insinuate what you're telling me there. Jiraiya snapped, eyes narrow. Keep in mind, Minato-chan, you're still a brat. I have seniority. Or senility, Minato muttered, and Naruto snorted laughter. Jiraiya scowled. You've forgotten your place, kid. I taught you all you know. Both of you. I took you on as my students, and this is my repayment. Oh, come now, Sensei, lighten up. If you can't admit that you have plenty of vices, then we need to add delusion to the list. And anyway, this is beside the point. I think we should start over with training Naruto-kun. That way he'll learn it the right way. Minato glanced at Naruto. So what do you say, kiddo? Ready to be my student? The gleam in Naruto's eyes at that offer was not lost on Jiraiya, who smiled slightly. Of course, much of the reason the young genin was so excited at the prospect was because he knew Minato as the famed Yondaime Hokage, the greatest ninja ever to exist. But there was another facet to it, Jiraiya was sure. Even though Naruto didn't realize just who Minato was to him, some part of him felt it. Jiraiya could tell just in the way they had so quickly bonded that both of them felt a kinship with each other. Jiraiya seriously considered telling Minato just what had happened, just where he and the others had come from, but he thought better of it. Not yet. The time wasn't right. Instead, he simply watched. And wondered if Minato had met the woman who would later become his wife yet. He wasn't entirely certain just how far back he'd taken himself and his companions yet. Maybe I should try to find her. No. Kushina has probably been warned about me. Sheesh. No respect at all in this village, I swear. He huffed, frowning again. It was seriously unfair. There was one fundamental difference between Jiraiya's teaching methods and Minato's, and Naruto picked up on it immediately. Jiraiya was like Kakashi, giving only the necessary information regarding the exercise before finding something else, probably perverse in nature, to occupy his time. Minato, on the other hand, behaved more like Iruka, remaining at hand in case his student had any questions. He told Naruto various bits of information, from how far to place his feet to the proper crook of his fingers as he molded chakra. Much of what he said sounded stupid to Naruto at first, but gradually he realized that he felt much more comfortable than he would have otherwise by following the man's advice. He supposed he should have expected nothing less from a hero. Also, Minato seemed quite at ease as Naruto trained, even though he wasn't making any headway. He was patient, belying his energetic, almost childlike demeanor. He also employed a tactic that Naruto hadn't expected to do any good, but somehow did: distraction. He told stories, made jokes, pointed out various things in the landscape, any number of things to make Naruto lose focus on the task he was attempting to perform. When Naruto finally asked why Minato was doing this, he replied, "This jutsu isn't about mind power. I didn't create it through months of contemplation over scrolls and books trying to come up with the most efficient jutsu I was capable of. The Rasengan is all natural, and by that I mean it's purely physical. Your body knows how to do it by focusing so hard on it, like you want to do your breathing right past it. I am letting your body do what comes natural by distracting your mind." And strangely enough, it seemed to be working. That stain never did come out, Minato was saying now while straining to suppress laughter. "Did it, sensei?" Jiraiya huffed. "No, but it doesn't matter. That incident, as you so kindly call it, resulted in the pivotal scene in my first novel, which sold like crazy, might I add." Minato, however, was no longer listening. I swear the look on his face was absolutely priceless. Oh, you should have seen it. Jiraiya twitched, groaning with exasperation and pulling out said first novel, reading the scene in question and smirking. "This scene was so worth losing one lousy shirt. And I refuse to let you read it, you ungrateful little snot." "Oh, loosen up, sensei," Minato said with a grin. "You know you love me." "Probably one of those bad habits I have," the gray-haired Sannin snapped. "Some people love drinking themselves into unconsciousness, but that still doesn't make it healthy." "Some people?" Minato repeated. "You mean like, say, you?" "I do not drink that much. I drink until I am drunk, not until I am incapacitated." Naruto and Minato shared a look. "It's true, damn you!" Jiraiya snarled, but it sounded far too whiny to be taken seriously. "You know, sometimes I wonder why I keep coming back here. I must be a masochist." "You still like hanging around Tsunade-chan every once in a while," Minato said, raising an eyebrow, "so I'd say that's a fair guess. How is she anyway? Have you heard from her recently?" "No, not recently. Last I heard she was still in trouble with the law." "Imagine that. Imagine the nerve of people wanting the money that they won from her." Minato rolled his eyes. "Figures. No luck in convincing her to come back?" "TCH. Of course not. That old bat won't listen to anybody. She's a hopeless case." He glared pointedly at Naruto, who seemed about to say something. Seeing the look, the genin swallowed his words and nodded. "Well, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised," Minato shrugged. "But hey! You came back. Maybe Nechan will too. Anyway, I think we've done enough training for the day. You look exhausted, Naruto-kun." Well, maybe. Kind of. You've done well today," Minato said with a grin. "I am impressed. And here," he looked at Jiraiya, "since he did such a good job, and because I was the one to train him today, I think you should be the one to get us something to eat. Don't you agree, sensei?" "Only fair. Isn't it?" Jiraiya growled. "I hate you." Minato's grin widened. "They all say that." Whirling on his heel, Jiraiya groaned. "I've no doubt what you want. You know, when you two die from all the sodium you ingest from that slop, I am not going to your funerals." "I am actually comforted by that," Minato replied thoughtfully. "God only knows what you'd say about me." Jiraiya, who still remembered precisely what he had said at Minato's funeral, narrowed his eyes and clenched his fists, all the more determined to never have to say it a second time. "I'd simply tell the truth about you, kid. Yeah. That's why I am comforted. You have a twisted view of the truth, Sensei. Yeah, Naruto added, just look at what he calls research. It is research. You just don't understand it. What I don't understand is how you manage to write anything down. All I've ever seen you do is stare and drool. How that constitutes as research I won't ever know. I thought there was more to it than that. Like, oh, I don't know. Thinking. I do think. Barely. Oh, suddenly telepathic now? You just don't understand the artistic nature of my work, you sad, ignorant little man. I think you just need to find a girl of your own. Then you'll understand it. I have a girl of my own, Sensei Minato muttered. I told you about her. You've met her. Oh, is she still around? Jiraiya asked, inwardly smiling at the answer to one of his many questions about just when he was. I wasn't sure. She didn't seem particularly interested in you, I am sorry to say. She kept eyeing me. To ensure that you wouldn't pounce on her. People don't take their attention off a predator in their immediate presence, you know. Oh, now. You're just letting jealousy take over. No need to be so insulting about it. It's okay. It's my fault. Really. I shouldn't have shown myself. You couldn't hope to live up to my perfection after all. If you're perfection now, then I've got even less to worry about. There's that jealousy again. Did I mention that you're delusional? Even if that's true, one of the benefits of being delusional is that I don't believe it. Damn. I hate it when you're right. No wonder you're so bitter. I am always right. What about that time in the grass country when you quieted Naruto? I warned you against that story. Minato raised an eyebrow, then elbowed Naruto playfully. Tell me later, huh? You bet. Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Chapter 9: Various Discussions. As much as Jiraiya might have wanted to protest, it was no secret that Namake's Minato was the biggest celebrity in Konoha. Everyone knew it. He might not have started off that way, but now he was known and acknowledged as one of, if not the best shinobi in history. Minato would have scoffed at that, pointed at various other ninja he considered better than he, but it was the general consensus among the villagers at the very least. It was all but guaranteed that he would succeed the third within the next few years. Sculptors had already begun planning the carving of his face upon the monument. And as proud as she was, it sometimes annoyed Uzumaki Kushina to the point of madness to be the fiancée of such a legendary figure. And this was why. Must be so amazing. And he's so dreamy too. That messy blonde hair, those gorgeous eyes, and... oh, his body has to be perfect. Yes, sure, perfect. Yep. Uh-huh. Not to be rude, but you're standing on my porch blocking my way into my house. And who are you anyway? The girl stopped mid-rant and blinked. Oh, how silly of me. I am. Could you move, please? I need to get these vegetables cooking or I won't be eating dinner until midnight. Thank you. Oh, and if you want to talk to Minato, I am sure he wouldn't mind. Just go find him. He's probably out training his team. Oh, I wouldn't want to bother him. See, could you just, well, I mean... She slammed the door shut behind her. Kushina leaned against the wall and groaned. Minato, I love you to death, but your fans are going to be the death of me. Couldn't you not be so impressive for once? Well, I could, but that would be lying. Kushina jumped up and squeaked, whirling around to see her future husband perched on a windowsill, a wide grin on his face. Minato! Don't do that! I am not a ninja, you know. I am not used to people just popping out of nowhere. Slipping into the house, Minato shrugged. You may not be a ninja, but you're dating one. So you'll need to get used to it pretty quick. Sensei's back, you know. Jiraiya-sama? Kushina asked, raising an eyebrow. What's he doing back already? Wasn't he just here a few months ago? You know, Sensei. Just pops in when you least expect it. Brought some students with him this time, though. Squad of genin. Dunno how he got his hands on him. Walking into the kitchen, Kushina began chopping vegetables for dinner. He came back to show you his new students? Minato took a frying pan from the cupboard under the sink and inspected it. Yeah, seems that way. Is this the pan Rin used on Obito last week? I think I can still see his face. Names Rin, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. Sasuke happens to be an Uchiha with a fully formed Sharingan. Naruto's almost got Rasengan down to a science. And Sakura, well, she'll go places. And likely destroy them too. Is it just me, or are all kunoichi like that? Throw that pen out, would you? You kidding? I want to keep this thing. It's kind of artistic when you think about it. Well, then take it to your place. I can't cook on Obito-kun's face. You didn't answer my kunoichi question. Your family's had a few. Were they prone to excessive violence too? Minato, honey, I love you, but sometimes you just prove how clueless you really are. Women are prone to excessive violence. Minato sniffed. Well, at least I know what I am getting into up front. Better chance of survival that way. Kushina smirked. Oh, just you wait. Minato returned the smirk in kind. Bring it on. Oh, by the way, Obito asked after your teriyaki recipe. I told him it's an Uzumaki secret, but he won't listen. Offered to pay. Sorry. Not good enough. He's a sweet boy, but he's got some sucking up to do after that. What's so special? Don't all women know how to cook? Comment. I think Kakashi dared him to ask that, you know. He still said it. Speaking of which, Minato lifted the Obito pan up and looked at it. Isn't that what caused this? I swear Obito gets himself hurt more often than anyone I know. Except maybe Sensei. Jiraiya-sama attracts pain like honey attracts flies. He's just lucky he was Sandaime-sama's student, or someone would have killed him already. I don't know about that honorable, he's pretty resourceful. Plenty of people have tried to kill him and he keeps coming back. Have you seen his record? It's downright unbelievable. Contrary to popular belief, he deserves his legendary status. You wouldn't say that if he were here. Of course I wouldn't. He's too cocky as it is. No need to add to it. So what about these new students of his? You met them, I assume. Yeah. I think you'd really like one of them. For a moment Obito was certain that Sasuke was using some sort of genjutsu on him. There was no way a genin could move so fast. No freaking way. Then he was on him and there was no time for thoughts at all. His mind clicked off and his body was fueled by instinct and habit. As he strained mightily to keep enough distance between himself and his opponent, Obito realized the extent of his disadvantage. Sasuke was able to see through every move and could plan accordingly. He was literally 2 steps ahead of Obito at any given moment, and Obito had no way to shake him. Deception was useless against the Sharingan. It went on like a dance, Obito struggling to put up a defense and Sasuke countering it for several minutes. To Obito it felt like an eternity. This was impossible. No genin could be this fast. Who in the hell had trained this guy? Sure as hell wasn't Jiraiya. Couldn't be. He felt helpless. There was no way to win this. No way in hell. What are you doing? Sasuke suddenly snarled. Is this the worth of a Chunin? Keep up. Naruto was at the bottom of his class, and he's 10 times more of a challenge than this. Of course, Sasuke conveniently left out the fact that while Naruto certainly was lacking in the academic department, he was undoubtedly the fastest learner he'd ever seen. Not only that, but for some reason his body was in peak form, able to withstand more punishment than most jounin. It worked though. Obito wouldn't stand for being called 10 times worse than some genin. Oh hell no! Anger shot him full of adrenaline, and subconsciously he noticed that it was getting easier to read his opponent's movements. Sasuke was getting slower. Not by much, but the difference was there. Definitely there. A grin began spreading on Obito's face. Kimura-san? What are we doing here? Just pay attention, Kakashi Kimura said without looking up from his book. This may not seem like training, but it is. Now watch them. Closely. Kakashi looked at him oddly for a moment, then sighed and turned his attention back to Sasuke and Obito. I am not sure I see a point to this, he muttered. Kimura rolled his eyes well. And snapped the book closed. Does that matter? I was asked to train you, and that is what I am doing. Forgive me if I don't see the validity in that statement. From my standpoint, all it seems you are doing is reading. And that, my young friend, is why I am a jounin and you are not. Now pay attention. Kakashi grunted and looked back. Was this really how I acted at this age? Kimura thought as he turned a page. No wonder Sasuke seems so familiar. It really is like looking in a mirror. He felt like a character in a novel whose author had run out of ideas. Or perhaps liked irony a little too much. Raising an eyebrow as he turned another page, he chuckled to himself. A character in one of Jiraiya's novels. Did you see that? He asked Kakashi. Huh? What? Sasuke's counter? Yes. It's an invaluable technique to know. Memorize it. How did you even see it? You were giggling over that book. Kimura lifted his eye and tapped his Hitai-8. Jounin. Right. You see everything. Exactly. You know Erosin-nin, if Sakura-chan realizes you're spying on her, she's gonna go ballistic. Naruto, you poor ignorant little fool, have you forgotten who you were talking to? The great Jiraiya-sama does not get caught by genin. Yeah, but she's a genin who got trained by... Who again? I forgot. Maybe if you show me those scars you got, I'll remember. Sakura may have been trained by Tsunade, but she's no Tsunade. Not yet. I have nothing to worry about. You, on the other hand, just may want to watch out. Seems she's teaching Rin some rather advanced taijutsu techniques right now. Yeah? And? I think Obito's the one who ought to be scared. Rubbing his chin, Jiraiya thought this over. You may be right. Should we warn him? Sure. Yes. We should. The poor boy will be walking straight into a bear trap if we don't. How noble we are. Yeah. Noble. You gonna warn Yondaime? He's not Yondaime yet, you know. And no, I don't think so. Why not? Training. He needs to be knocked down a few pegs. I figure getting himself beaten to a pulp by a Chunin will do the trick. Kinda mean. Gotta offset the nobility, don't I? Balance in everything, Naruto. There must be a balance to everything. And... well, it'll be funny as hell to see Minato lose to a girl. You lose to a girl all the time. Tsunade is a woman, Naruto. There is a difference. Besides, she doesn't play fair. Naruto crossed his arms. I think you're just a sore loser, Erosin-nin. Jiraiya grinned. Maybe. The grin vanished almost instantly, however, and suddenly the Sannin was somber. Naruto, he said, and the tone of his voice was serious. It was times like this that Naruto had learned he had to listen. Huh? I've been meaning to ask you something. Regarding Minato. What about him? Kakashi brought this up last night, and it's got me wondering. We noticed that you've taken a liking to him. Well, sure. He's a cool guy. And he's teaching me a lot of good stuff. Yes, well, you do remember that it was Minato who... he drifted off. Oh. You mean... him? Naruto pointed to his stomach. Yeah, I remember. But what good is it gonna do me getting mad at him? He hasn't done it yet, and besides, if he hadn't done it, Konoha would have been crushed. Jiraiya's eyes widened slightly. Oh? I done some research on that now, you know. I know what the deal was. The fox was gonna kill everyone. Just what he does. Yondaime had to do something to stop him. He did. I got no reason to hate him for that. I mean, he died for that. What right would I have being mad when I got to live? Right? Jiraiya blinked. I guess you're right. I am impressed, Naruto. There was genuine admiration in the white-haired ninja's eyes, and Naruto couldn't help but feel proud of himself. It wasn't often that Jiraiya praised him so openly. Usually it was hidden behind a joke. Minato's impressed with you too, you know. Told me he was gonna watch out for you from now on. Thinks you might fight him for his title someday. Me? Hey, I want to be Hokage, but I am not dumb enough to fight him for it. He'd knock me flat. Maybe now. But given a few years. Who knows? All I am saying is he's a bit nervous. Naruto also noticed that Jiraiya didn't refute Minato's nervousness. Thanks, Sensei. Jiraiya glanced at him and chuckled. Yeah, yeah. Don't get sentimental on me. Just telling you what he told me. He ruffled Naruto's hair. Where'd you learn this stuff anyway? Rin asked, setting herself down on a tree stump. Oh, from my. Sakura stopped herself, remembering that it wouldn't be wise to tell the truth. Then, to cover the fact that she'd stopped herself, she glanced around. You hear something? Huh? No. Huh. Well, anyway, my sensei Kimura. He taught me. He doesn't use any of it himself, but he brought me some scrolls. I learned from those. Flexing her fingers, Rin smirked. Well, this is definitely effective. Thanks. No problem. Sakura snapped her head up. This time she had heard something. Okay, what was that? Rin looked around. I think over there. Probably just a squirrel or something. I am gonna go check. Silently, Sakura made her way toward where she heard the noise that was most certainly not a squirrel. She stopped when she heard voices and was about to give her teammate and his perverted mentor a sound beating until she heard what they were talking about. That it was Minato who? Jiraiya was saying. Oh. You mean? Him? Naruto asked in turn. Him? Who? What the? Yeah, I remember, Naruto continued, but what good is it gonna do me getting mad at him? He hasn't done it yet, and besides, if he hadn't done it, Konoha would have been crushed. What in the name of? Sakura whispered. Oh? Jiraiya replied. I done some research on that night, you know. I know what the deal was. The fox was gonna kill everyone. Just what he does. Yondaime had to do something to stop him. He did. I got no reason to hate him for that. I mean, he died for that. What right would I have being mad when I got to live? Right? Now thoroughly confused, Sakura felt any anger at being spied on wash away. It wasn't often that she heard Naruto speak that way, and even though she had no idea what he was speaking of, Sakura still gathered from Jiraiya's reaction to it that it wasn't typical. Definitely not what he'd expected. She found herself impressed with Naruto just as his mentor was, despite not knowing the whole story. She remembered something she thought earlier, that Naruto had his moments of level-headedness. Apparently they were getting more frequent. Maybe he wasn't such a pain. Hey! Oh! Our little cherry blossom's gone missing. She probably found out what you're doing, Eros and Nin. I told you this was stupid. Sakura-chan isn't as easy to fool as you think. There's a reason Bachan picked her as her student. How many students you think Hokage usually takes? Minato has 4 now. Yeah, well, you said it yourself. He's not Hokage yet. Bachan is. And she still trains Sakura-chan, even though I know she'd rather be drinking. Don't that say something? Jeeves. No wonder you got so many scars. Turning around, Sakura smiled, suddenly finding herself in a very good mood. Thanks, Naruto. When she got back, Rin asked, so what was it? Huh? Oh. You were right. Squirrel. Chapter 10, Surprises, Surprises. So, mister, I am too good to have faith in my superiors. Are you ready to see just what I have planned for you? Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Fine. Kimura took a breath and slipped his book into a pouch. Perhaps it was because Obito was involved. You considered my training exercise to be lazy rather than effective. Was it because you just didn't feel like watching your teammate? It was because you were doing absolutely nothing. But that is where you are wrong, my naive little friend. I was doing something, and that something is what you were being tested on. Kakashi frowned beneath his mask. Observation. The frown dropped. Kimura cleared his throat and continued. A shinobi must perform his mission to the very best of his ability. You believe this, correct? Well, that is also true of training exercises. I told you to watch Sasuke train your goggle-clad friend, and perhaps you did. But likely not enough. I am doubting you saw everything you should have seen. And I am going to determine that now. Holding his hands before him in the seal of the ram, Kimura was silent as he vanished in a puff of smoke. When Kakashi's vision cleared, Kimura was gone. Instead, Obito stood there. I am Obito Kimura, said simply, his voice a perfect mimicry of the young Uchiha, and you are Sasuke. We are going to perform the match that we just finished, observing every move, every blow, every mistake, every success. And we are not leaving this clearing until it is perfect. Kakashi's eyes went wide. Kimura Obito smirked. Bet you wish you'd paid more attention now, don't you? The Chunin's only response was a deep breath. Well, Sasuke? Come at me. Her training done for the day, Rin and at a previous engagement that she couldn't break, Sakura decided to wander the village for a while. If asked, she may have said that it was simply further training, noting every detail of change that she could find. She was just plain curious. The first major change she noted was that she kept expecting a summons from Tsunade at any moment. The fifth was a highly unpredictable woman and held meetings at some of the strangest times. It took Sakura a while to remind herself that her sensei wasn't here. At this time, Tsunade was nowhere near Konoha and likely wouldn't agree to train her even if she begged. The Tsunade of this time wasn't even a ninja. Not anymore. Not yet. The people walking the streets, even the few she actually recognized, looked alien to her. Of course they would. But it was still surreal, and Sakura couldn't really wrap her mind around the idea yet. A few of the more extroverted villagers waved to her, and she waved back. A few of the more respectful villagers bowed to her, and she blushed. She stopped walking when she came up to a building she couldn't remember ever having seen, even in her early childhood. It was an imposing structure, to be sure, but the one thing Sakura locked her eyes on was the instantly recognizable symbol atop the sign that named the establishment. The Uchiha Fan. It was the headquarters for the Konoha Military Police Force. This is it, she whispered, awestruck. The building where the best of Konoha had held the law together. A group of shinobi more respected and feared than even the Umbu. Soldiers of legend. The Hidden Leaf's trump card. She began walking forward, entranced. It really was the past. It hadn't hit her until this. Even seeing the future Yondaime and his team hadn't done it. Seeing her teacher, her commander, as a child no older than she hadn't done it. But this was history. She bumped into the woman without even seeing her. She landed on her back, and her itaite fell from its place atop her head to where most shinobi wore it across her forehead. When she stood, it fell farther to where her commander wore it across her eye. Lifting the headband, she reached behind her head and tightened it, setting it into its proper place. The black-haired woman smiled apologetically. Oh, I am sorry. I didn't notice you there. No, I am the one who should apologize, Sakura said quickly. I wasn't paying attention. Who's this Makoto? HM? The woman murmured, glancing back as another woman approached from behind. Oh, I bumped into her. The other woman, holding a squalling baby in her arms, grunted. Will you take this little monster for a minute? The woman named Makoto took the baby from her companion. Are you causing your aunt trouble again, little one? The baby boy giggled. No, he declared. No trouble. No from me. Oh, not from you, Sakura smiled, chuckling slightly. He's so cute. Makoto adjusted herself so that the baby was situated on her hip. Yes, he can be very sweet when he wants to be. Sometimes, though. You need to leave poor Auntie alone now, you understand? Sakura's smile widened. Tickling the baby's chin. He wasn't a baby, actually, he looked around 2 years old. She asked, What's your name, sweetie? The baby grinned and proclaimed Itachi. Sakura's heart skipped 3 beats. Her hand dropped suddenly, dead weight. Her skin went pale. Makoto raised an eyebrow questioningly. Is something wrong? Sorry. I know someone named Itachi. He looks kinda like him. Just a little surprised is all. It's nice to meet you, Itachi-chan. I am Sakura. Hi, Sakura, Itachi said. Well, aren't you being social today? Makoto asked. Kachin, Itachi said excitedly. Sakura puede. Sakura, despite her shock and revulsion, couldn't help but blush. She forced a smile back on her face. Thank you very much, Itachi-chan. And you're Very handsome yourself. Thank you. Makoto smiled. Very good, Itachi. That was very polite. Polite, Itachi repeated with added emphasis, nodding for good measure. You're welcome. Bowing, Sakura said it was an honor meeting you, Uchiha-sama. I am sorry again for bumping into you. Makoto smiled at the woman who was apparently her sister. Hear that? Uchiha-sama, she says. No need for such formality, Sakura-san. We're both kunoichi after all. It was nice meeting you too. She kept her head down. The other woman frowned. Wait. Sakura? Yamada Sakura? It took her a moment to remember that yes, that was her name for now. She looked up. Yes, madam. I am Yamada Sakura. Oh. So you're the young lady Obi-kun was talking about today. Obi. Obito-san? Yes, yes. He mentioned meeting you today. Jiraiya-sama brought you here, didn't he? Yes, that's right. I can only imagine why. Sakura chuckled. Yes, well, I don't intend to let him do anything. Although he surely has something planned. Well, you be careful around him. It seems Obi-kun wasn't kidding. HM? Oh, nothing. Don't mind me. You must need to be getting somewhere. Come on, Makoto. We'd better be heading back. Sure. Goodbye, Sakura said. As she turned to leave, she heard the as of yet unnamed Uchiha Obito's mother probably say she is cute. I think Obi-kun might be getting another crush. Now Makoto said I wouldn't count out Rin-chan just yet. She's a sweet girl, and you know how boys are about their first loves. Obito-kun really does like her quite a lot. The two women continued talking, but Sakura heard none of it. She could hardly believe what had just happened. Her blood ran cold. Looking down at her hand, Sakura honestly expected it to be bleeding. She had touched him. She had spoken to him. Had. Oh God. Hugging herself, she started walking back the way she had come. She needed to be away. She needed to think. What would she do? What should she say? To Sasuke? Oh God, what would Sasuke think? What would he do? How would he? What would he? How would? Oh no. It wasn't often that Haruno Sakura honestly lost control of herself. But this was. Gotta give credit to your sensei for that one, Jiraiya said thoughtfully, rubbing his chin. Quite an effective training exercise. Naruto agreed. I mean Kimura-sensei's good at that stuff. You think it'll work though? Kakashi's a smart kid, the Sannin said. He'll get it eventually. But it'll be a long while. Getting dark already. He'll probably be out there all night. Naruto sympathized. He knew how much it sucked to train at night. And fighting against somebody? Sheesh. Especially somebody older and stronger than you? He shuddered. They passed Sasuke standing by himself while he surveyed the townspeople still walking the streets. When he noticed them, he silently began following them. How was your first day training, Ichin, oh prodigal son? Jiraiya wondered. Better than I expected. You say that grudgingly. I didn't say it was good. Just better than I expected. What did you do? Naruto asked. I fought him. That it? Basically. Well, that couldn't be been too bad. So you say. So. What? Obito suck or something? No. But he's not what I expected. A chunin. I figured on more of a challenge. Well, maybe our standards for chunin aren't as high at this point in time, Jiraiya said mockingly. So sorry that it didn't meet your expectations. TCH. Much as I don't want to admit it, kid, Jiraiya said seriously, you're better than a lot of ninja your age. Not to mention you've the distinct advantage of being able to use the Sharingan against a member of a clan whose entire strength as shinobi revolve around it. Something Obito is conspicuously lacking as of now. Sasuke scowled. You act as though we are incompetent without the Sharingan. Uchiha shinobi aren't so weak as that. Perhaps not, but regardless of that, Obito's entire training regimen at the moment revolves around acquiring the Sharingan, therefore his skills are somewhat lacking. NH. They didn't speak again until they happened across Sakura, who looked extremely distracted. Naruto called out his usual enthusiastic greeting, and instead of ignoring him or snapping at him to quiet down or even waving to Sasuke, she simply lifted her head up. When she noticed Sasuke looking at her, Sakura's face paled considerably, and she bit her lip. Oh! She murmured softly, giggling nervously, Sasuke-kun. Naruto. There you guys are. Sasuke grunted in acknowledgement. She licked her lips nervously as they approached. So, how'd your training with Obito-san go, Sasuke-kun? Could have been worse. Oh, that's good. How about you, Naruto? Awesome. Hey, Sakura-chan. You look kinda sick. You okay? No, I am not. Sick? Naruto, could I talk to you a minute? Sasuke and Jiraiya glanced at each other. I've been wondering something. About Kage Bunshin. And you know. Who better to ask, right? Sasuke seemed to accept that. Jiraiya didn't. Oh, I don't know, Sakura, how about the one who's been around for 50 years? I've been studying and using more techniques than you. Don't use that technique, Jiraiya-sama. Naruto does. A lot. And that's what I want to ask him about. Sure, Sakura-chan. What's up? Well, Jiraiya frowned. Apparently this is meant to be private. She keeps looking at us. Come on, Mr. Sharingan. Let's go check on that lazy-ass commander of yours. Sasuke looked at the man oddly for a moment, then shrugged. Whatever. They left Naruto and Sakura alone. Once alone, Sakura grabbed Naruto by the shoulders. Naruto! I saw him. I met him. Oh God, what do we do? Met him? Him who? Sputtering, she finally choked out, Itachi. I saw him. Eyes widening slightly, Naruto's face slackened. Oh. Him. Well, what did you do? What could I do? Said hello. He was with his mother, and he called me Pweddy. Pweddy! Cracking a smirk, Naruto snickered. Hope you thanked him. Huh? What? Naruto, this is Itachi. The biggest criminal Konoha's ever seen since Orochimaru? Yeah. Sakura-chan, why were you getting so worked up about this? Wasn't he like 13 when he did that? How old did he look when you saw him? 2-ish. Well, see? It ain't gonna be another 11 years before he goes bad. But, Naruto. We know it's going to happen. Yeah, but like I've said before, how are we gonna prove it? If he called you here, he snickered again, Pweddy, I am sure he's not exactly mean-spirited. Yet. No one's gonna believe us. They'll throw us out. But what about Sandaime-sama? We could tell him. Jiraiya-sama could explain the jutsu and old man Okage won't do a damn thing. 11 years, Sakura-chan, lots can happen in 11 years. He'll want to wait it out. Maybe he'll watch Itachi closer, but wouldn't that be enough? Maybe. I dunno. The Uchiha clan was huge, remember? Strongest we had. He killed them all. By himself. But didn't he do it at night? Exactly. When everybody was sleeping. Nobody kept an eye on him. You think old man Okage's gonna keep tabs on him for 11 years? Security ain't gonna be tight enough. And we can't kill him now. We'd be killed. Then what? The Uchiha clan saved? Sure, but I don't want to sacrifice myself and my friends for strangers. Not if I can avoid it. So, what do we do then? Said it yourself, Sakura-chan. He called you pretty. He likes you. Make friends. Mouth opening in shock, Sakura couldn't form a reply for a long, long moment. You're saying she finally said we stop him from killing Sasuke-kun's family? Not by talking to the village, but by talking to him? Sure. Why not? Kid's re-impressionable. But, I know. You're thinking of the Itachi we know. The criminal. The murderer. How could we make friends with a guy like that? She nodded weakly. How could we stomach being all nice to the guy who ruined Sasuke's life? The guy evil enough to kill his own family just 'cause he could? He's a cold-blooded psycho. He deserves to die. Why not just kill him? Another nod. Sakura-chan, I learned a lot about psychos in the time I've been a ninja. Big thing I figured out is they ain't just born like that. Something makes them snap. People can't be born evil, but they sure as hell can learn it. And just like how something makes them go cold, something else can make him come back. How? How can you? Zabuza. Gaara. Temari. Kenkuru. Niji. Sakura would later think on just how often Naruto had managed to stun her into complete silence in the past few days. Gaara, especially, Naruto went on. He was freaking nutsoid. I exist to kill everyone other than me. He told me that. Me and Shikamaru. Can't get much crazier. He was trying to kill Fuzzy Brows when he was in the hospital. But remember what happened when Mikiba, Chuji, Shikamaru, and Niji went after Sasuke? Fuzzy Brows came to help us out, and when things went bad, who came to help him? Gaara. She did remember. First impressions re hard to forget. Damn hard. I know it's gonna be tough keeping the Itachi we know from popping up in our heads when we see him here. But he isn't that guy. He's a kid. And if we work at it, I think we can stop him from turning into that guy. Only you. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Huh? Oh, only you would look at this and come up with such a simple, preposterous, ridiculous, impossible, brilliant idea. A grin spread on the blonde's face. Really? Brilliant? I don't know how you. Heh. Brilliant. Seriously? Wow. We can do this. If we just... Sure we can. Naruto clapped his teammate on the shoulder, and for once she didn't yell at him for touching her. Not only are we gonna do it, we're gonna convince Sasuke to do it too. Much as he's gonna hate it. We are? Sure. Sakura had thought for the longest time that Naruto's steadfast confidence in himself was simple bravado. That he had no idea what he was getting into when he dove headlong into danger. She was beginning to rethink that assumption. Maybe Naruto didn't know what he was getting into when he dove headlong into danger. He just didn't care. And maybe that wasn't bravado. Maybe that was courage. Maybe Naruto's dream to become Hokage wasn't just a dream. Maybe it was his calling. Maybe a man who would make friends with an enemy rather than executing him was the sort of man who should lead a village. Or maybe I am just going nuts. Looking at Naruto now, Sakura couldn't help but draw a correlation between him and Minato. They looked similar, they acted similarly, they had that same steadfast confidence. And look at what Minato had ended up doing. It felt strange to have an epiphany like this. The more she thought, the more she realized just how much Naruto had done. How much he had been able to do that no one else could have. He had faith in people. He believed in people. Even the enemy. Let's go find Sasuke-kun and Jiraiya-sama, Sakura suggested, and Naruto agreed with a grin and a nod. As they walked, she gripped his hand, squeezed gently, and said thank you. Looking at her, Naruto grinned again. We're a team, Sakura-chan. No need to thank me. Sakura smiled. Was it really that simple? Apparently Naruto thought it was. We're a team. Her smile widened. Then, wait a second. The smile vanished. Obito thinks I am cute? Chapter 11 Goodbye and Hello. The forest closed in on him as he ran. The trees which had always protected him, holding their stout arms upward and providing him cover, were suddenly malevolent, thinking him their enemy. He wasn't one to believe in superstition. At least he'd never thought he was. But now, as he strained against his own muscles, screaming at them to go faster, he thought that he finally did. Every time he kicked off a branch, every time he threw himself forward, every time he ducked and dove and curled to dodge an obstacle, he became more and more convinced that the trees were helping the enemy. They were keeping him from the village, from his mission. Was it possible that the demon lord held dominion over this place? Was the QB capable of? He had no time to think such things. Thinking took too long, took too much energy. He had to move. Damn it, the scenery whipped past him like a painting assaulted by a strong wind before it dried. At each turn he wondered if he was going in the wrong direction, if 3 days without sleep had caused him to forget the way. He finally closed his eyes and let his memory guide him, send him through that familiar path toward home. He still had an urge to reach up and rub his eye. Or Obito's eye. It still felt alien, like it wasn't even an eye at all, but a living thing struggling for dominance within his head. He supposed that was the Sharingan. A lot of good it had done him so far. Ugh! He grunted, shaking his head. Stop it, you idiot! Focus! Ignoring the searing pain in his muscles, he somehow forced himself to go even faster. He had to move. Damn it, Sensei had given him one last request, one final order, and he was the Hokage now. He would not let his commander down. Not after he had let his teammates down. Not by a long shot. Minato-sensei's dying. It won't be long until the jutsu overwhelms him and stops his heart. Move, Kakashi, move. But no matter how fast he moved, it wasn't fast enough. For every step he took, the path seemed to grow. He almost thought again that he was caught in a genjutsu cast by the QB. Then he realized that he had opened his eyes again and snapped them shut. Before long, although it felt far too long in his mind, Kakashi made it past the main gates of Konoha, none too surprised to find that the destruction had hit the village as well in the time he had been gone out on the front lines with his leader. He sped through the broken, burning, familiar streets like a hawk on the hunt, and while he was hunting for someone, it wasn't to attack. He found her quickly enough. But it was already too late. Namake's Kushina was lying on the ground, a huge chunk of her decimated home's wall having speared her torso clean through her spine. A freak accident made all the more poignantly painful because it had been a freak accident. One without a perpetrator he could persecute. He fell to his knees, all his hope fading, all the pain and ache and fatigue catching up with him, at once landing a crippling blow to his heart, mind, body, and soul. Hatake Kakashi wanted nothing more than to just crumple to the ground and die. It was too much. He couldn't even contemplate going back to Minato with news like this. And then it registered in his mind that he more than likely wouldn't be able to tell Minato this news, because by the time he made it back, the Yondaime Hokage would be dead. He felt slight comfort in that and hated himself for that comfort. He closed his eye, bowing his head, and shook, straining with all the strength he possessed to hold back the waves of despair threatening to kill him. Kakashi. Kun. His eyes snapped open, and he scrambled to her side, this strong, smart, wonderful woman who had taken him in like a surrogate mother. This woman who had made the entire world make sense again after he had lost the friends he hadn't realized he'd needed and certainly hadn't deserved. Yes? What is it, Kushina-sama? He cried, all but hysterical. Shoo. Just Kushina. Kakashi-kun. Just because. Minato is Hokage now. Doesn't change me. So no more of this Sama business. How many times do I have to tell you? At least one more time. Kushina-sama. He whimpered, sounding painfully young as he struggled to hold back tears. She smiled then, gently stroked his masked cheek with a trembling hand. You never learn. Kakashi-kun. No, Kushina-sama. She weakly gestured for him to lean closer. Kakashi, not about to deny her anything, did so immediately. Her lips gently brushed against his cheek. Kakashi-kun. This is it for me. The medics can't do anything now. Maybe if Tsunade-sama were here. But She began to cough, and the agonized moan that tore its way out of her throat as she did twisted Kakashi's heart into knots. He would have given anything at that moment to ease her suffering. Please, Kushina-sama, don't strain yourself. Why? Not? It's not like. It will make a difference. Listen. Kakashi-kun. I know that. Minato had to do it. But that doesn't mean I like it. He knew what she was talking about. He thinks far too much of the people who live here. He really believes that they will view our son as a hero for holding the demon lord inside him. But they won't. I know they won't. So please, Kakashi-kun, do this one thing for me. Of course, Kushina-sama, anything. Anything. Protect Naruto-chan. Please. Protect him. Kakashi nodded emphatically. I will, Kushina-sama. I swear it. She smiled again, weaker this time. Thank you, Kakashi-kun. And, oh, one more thing? Could you tell Minato, if she coughed again, if there's still time, that I love him? And that I understand? And, gee, goodbye? Any thought of keeping the news of his beloved wife's death from Minato now was dashed. Kakashi frowned beneath his mask, but nodded firmly. He would do this. He would. Sayo. Nara. Kakashi. Kun. Sayonara. One last smile. One last pat on his leg. One last glimpse of her sparkling, joyful eyes. Namake's Kushina died. Kakashi lowered his head again and felt the tears begin to flow. Sayonara. He repeated brokenly. He walked the streets with just as much poised precision and aloofness as he always did, but inside his mind was a churning maelstrom of emotions that he had feared would rise up again, but had hoped would not. Seeing Konoha as it had been before the fateful attack that would put the third back into the seat of power not a single year after the fourth's ascension, the fateful attack that would bring about the end of everything, and the beginning of anything. The fateful attack that had robbed Namake's Naruto of any chance at a normal life. Seeing that Konoha struck the man now calling himself Ataki Kimura like a hammer striking an anvil, the vibrations making his heart race and his lungs contract and his legs go weak. Outwardly, however, there was no sign. Outwardly, Kimura was as composed as ever. When he finally decided to focus on his surroundings again, losing himself in his thoughts even in friendly territory was a breach in discipline that he would later berate himself for. Kimura realized he was standing in front of the soul building that he had told himself he would not visit. Not yet. The home of Uzumaki Kushina. Turning, he saw her walking along the path toward that home with a bag of groceries cradled in her arms. She walked slowly, looking all around at the people going about their day, at the various animals, at the sights that had to be as familiar as her own reflection by now, but for some reason she took delight in. Kimura smiled despite himself. As painful as it was to see her again, Kushina, like his teammates, had been an integral part of his life, before the QB. And though having the long-rooted resignation that he would never see her again be torn apart like this was disconcerting and hard to get through without breaking down, it was still. She was nodding a greeting to a passing shinobi on his way to the Hokage's office, and didn't notice until too late that there was a discarded tree branch, likely a child's improvised toy, on her path. She pitched forward, and Kimura smirked as he recognized one of the defining characteristics of his sensei's partner in life. Instead of gasping, crying out, or even grunting in surprise, Kushina growled a curse at her foolishness. Kimura shot forward. He caught the bag of foodstuffs in one hand and kept her from falling flat on her face with his other arm. Once she was standing upright again, he handed her the bag. Kushina smiled. Thank you, sir. Very much. He nodded his head. Of course. Are you all right? Yes. Thank you, she repeated. He nodded again. I am Ataki Kimura, he said in greeting. Oh. Ataki? So. You're related to Kakashi-kun? Minato-sama's student? Yes. Somewhat distantly, but yes. I see. He must be surprised. I couldn't tell one way or another. She laughed. That's Kakashi-kun for you. Ever the model shinobi. If I may ask, how is it that you know Kakashi? Oh, I am. She chuckled slightly. Minato-sama's fiancé. I've known his team for some time now. I am Uzumaki Kushina. It's a pleasure to meet you, Kimura-san. She bowed. Kimura smiled. The pleasure is mine, Kushina-sama. That brought another laugh. I am no Sama Kimura-san. My future husband is a celebrity, but I am not. I see. Very well, Kushina-sama. She gave him a look that Kimura found all too familiar. You're an interesting one, aren't you, Kimura-san? Yes. Thank you. The smile was back. Well, I must be going, Kushina-sama. I must speak with Jiraiya-sama. Are you near your home? Yes, it's just over there. Thank you again for helping me, Kimura-san. Go on. Jiraiya-sama gets restless if he's not causing an uproar. He likely already is. Very well, Kushina-sama. I shall leave then. One last nod and he turned away, hands clenching into fists from inside his pockets. He wasn't surprised when Jiraiya fell into step beside him. Kid sure picked a winner, didn't he? That he did. You always were enamored with her, as I recall. Did Whittle Kakashi-chan have a crush on Sensei's girlfriend? Kimura smirked beneath his mask. I don't know. Why don't you ask him? Jiraiya smirked as well. I saw her as a mother, Kimura finally said a moment later. The smirk widened. Didn't we all? She'd taken every kid in this damn village and half the adults if she could. Always taking it on herself to protect Konoha. I suppose it was so she could stand proud alongside her husband now? Kimura nodded. Doubtless. The one thing she wanted, Jiraiya murmured thoughtfully, was a child of her own. Someone of her own blood. Imagine what she'd think if she found out just who that child of her own is. Jiraiya's smirk softened to a genuine smile. I think she'd be proud as all hell. I think you're right. They walked along in silence for a time. So when do you think we should introduce Naruto to his mother? Kimura asked. We don't, Jiraiya said seriously, causing his fellow jounin to look at him oddly. But I don't see any problem with letting Naruto meet his new sensei's fiancée at some point. Do you? No. Not at all. I think they'd get along quite well. I think you're right. Chapter 12, New Goal, Old Times. A day off was a rare commodity for Naruto, and given his current circumstances he thought he could afford to take a day off from his personal training regimen as well as his sensei's. The reason for this was that considering where he was, his training wouldn't do much. Sasuke was back, and while he was just as disagreeable and irritating as he'd ever been, he was still there. He threatened Naruto that if he didn't get any stronger, if he didn't make any headway toward his ultimate goal in the next few months, that he would leave again, and this time there'd be no convincing, no second thoughts, no guilt, and certainly no chance of redemption. Naruto knew that the Uchiha was just venting. He came back because he wanted to be back. No matter what he might say. And besides, with his newest plan, Sasuke could start making considerable headway now. What better way to avenge his clan than to kill the man who'd done it but save the boy he'd grown from? To not lay the dead spirits of his family to rest, to put their memory behind him, but keep them alive and vibrant? Sakura had been right. It was brilliant. He cracked a smile as he walked. Allowing himself a day off wasn't slacking. Considering his current situation, he was way ahead of schedule anyway. But no matter how much he convinced himself he could relax, Naruto just wasn't the type to sit around doing nothing. He set out to see if he might find Makoto and her baby. He wanted to see Itachi face to face without having to fear for his life. It was a decidedly pleasing prospect. Naruto whistled while he strolled. Sasuke had seen Uchiha Yashiro. Sakura had seen Uchiha Itachi. Kakashi had seen Uzumaki Kushina and his old team. Jiraiya had seen Namake's Minato. Thus far, though, Naruto hadn't had the good fortune of running into someone from his past. He knew obviously that he was in the past. He was getting personal training from the Yondaime freaking Hokage himself. But knowing something wasn't quite the same as being directly confronted by it, as any of Naruto's companions could have attested to by now. Naruto wondered if he would as he wandered the streets of his village, so familiar and yet so alien. He grinned at the thought. He wasn't sure who he wanted to see really. He just wanted to meet somebody he knew. Other than, of course, Kakashi. Because he wasn't exactly talkative. He had decided that he would seek out Itachi, but he entertained the thought of bumping into, say, maybe Sakura's parents. Or maybe even Old Man Sandame. That would be interesting. Maybe he would find Kurenai or Asuma or one of the other older members of Konoha's military. Like that freaky guy, the one who liked torturing people. What was his name? Mori something. Or did it start with an I? Money. Ibano. Mariki. Marino. Marino Ibiki. That was it. Naruto shuddered at the idea of bumping into that one. He was whacked, no doubt about it. Just because you were a ninja shouldn't mean you particularly enjoyed the work. That was a clear mark of insanity in Naruto's book. He'd learned that particular mindset from none other than Umino Iruka, about as gentle a soul as you could find within Konoha's borders. Not the type one would slap the moniker of ninja onto upon first meeting him, for sure. Which probably explained why he was an instructor instead of a working soldier. I don't teach you to kill, Iruka had said once during a lecture. I teach you to defend. Shinobi are glorified by many of the other villages as tools, as heartless, soulless killers who wouldn't hesitate to kill their own mothers if the order was given. But that's not what I want you to be. I want you to learn these techniques without enjoying them. I want you to learn what I have to teach you, because what you enjoy isn't the idea of killing, but the idea of saving. I want you to fight because you have to, not because you want to. Naruto had joined the Konoha Academy solely with the idea of becoming someday Hokage. He had his eye on the position of 5th at the time, but now he knew 6th was the best he could hope for. Still, he hadn't really put too much thought to the idea that ninja were taught to kill people. That they were raised to use their hands to snuff out life like one might snuff out a candle when it was time for bed. He had never seen another person die, much less seen someone kill, when he entered the academy. Iruka had put things into a perspective that Naruto could surely appreciate, and now that he had been a ninja himself for a while, could fully understand why. He wanted to be Hokage because he wanted to protect his home. He wanted to prove to his fellow villagers that he wasn't useless, that he could use his skills, sparse as many people still thought they were. Idiots, for the good of Konoha as a whole. He didn't want to rise in the ranks for power. He didn't go out into battle with the idea of killing other people. He went to battle with the idea that these people, whoever they were, that he had been sent to find, and likely kill or at least harm, had aims to hurt his people, and it was his job as a soldier for Konoha and for the Hokage to stop that. He didn't relish killing other people like so many thought a ninja should. So many people he had met thought that a model shinobi should love the thrill of hunting. They should anticipate the kill because a desire to kill would make them a better weapon. But Naruto was no weapon. He was a ninja. A person. And he, partly due to his own principles, partly because of Iruka's influence, refused to let go of that. Once you let go of being a person, you let go of life. That was what Iruka had taught him. He supposed it was rather funny, considering. Ironic. The first person he ran into that he recognized was not Sandame or Kurenai or Asuma or even a ninja. It was Iruka. For some reason, even though he didn't have the scar across his nose that would come to represent him so clearly in later years, it was obvious. Naruto wondered if it was his hair. He stopped walking and watched as a group of other children approached the 10-year-old child that Naruto considered a father. "Oyumi," one said. Iruka looked at the speaker sheepishly. "Why, yes, Kazu-kun." Something clicked in Naruto's mind. The speaker, apparently named Kazu, scowled. "Why, still owe me shrimp for last week. You done disrespected me, you know. But, since I am such a nice guy, I gave you a chance to redeem myself. You got it?" How many times had Naruto run into that same sort? The type who for some stupid reason hid their cruelty behind a facade of generosity, as if dancing around their true words made them somehow better. He figured it was a rule of life or some such thing that people like that existed no matter where or when you were. "Well. You see, Kazu-kun," and my mom said that I couldn't have that much money. Cuz. Well, Kazu growled. Excuses? Homie, you're treading thin ground, why little snot. I told you if I didn't have that money today you was gonna pay. But I can't pay. Mom said. Mom said? TCH. The hell kind of crap excuse is that anyway? Naruto rolled his eyes. Idiots. Sighing heavily with a long-suffering look in his eye that would have been right at home on Narashikamaru's face, he approached the gaggle of goons with his hands in his pockets. Oi. Kazu-kun. Kazu turned, spit flying from his lips, and glared at Naruto, apparently trying to look intimidating. Who the hell are you? Don't matter. Just thought I'd say you look pretty stupid. Picking on a kid isn't exactly, impressive. Stupid? Who are you calling me stupid? Look. Point is, bullies have to be strong to make any sort of difference. And sad to say, but you aren't. Who you calling a bully? Again with the cookie cutter crap. You're a walking cliche, aren't you? You know the answer to that one, jackwad, so just shut up. How about this, huh? I am in a peaceable mood. How about you and your moron patrol go play somewhere else, leave this kid alone, and I pretend like you aren't an idiot. How's that sound? Get him! Naruto rolled his eyes and vanished just as the group of would-be tyrants approached him. He smirked at their bovine faces, staring at the puff of dust signifying where he had been. Reappearing just in front of Iruka, Naruto turned and looked over his shoulder at the boy and winked. Then, in a gesture that had become second nature for him, he put his hands into the cross seal that called upon his signature jutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Crossing his arms, Naruto watched his clones chase the band of miscreants. He liked that word, one of Iruka's favorite titles for him, down the street. Almost funny, he muttered. You Naruto turned. Iruka was looking down at the ground. Thanks. For that. They were probably gonna beat me good. Naruto shrugged and tapped his headband. One of a ninja's jobs, kid. Keeping the peace. You ever have problems with those guys again, you come for me, huh? Kazuhiko Naruto's the name. Iruka nodded. Thanks. I am Iruka. Yumano Iruka. He held up a hand. Naruto shook it and thought that this was completely backwards. And just plain frickin' weird. Nice to meet ya, Iruka. So where was you headed before Sergeant Stupid and the P-Brain platoon decided to drop in? Iruka laughed. Naruto did too. That was a good one. I was going out to get some vegetables for my mom. Yeah? His mom. Naruto couldn't help but be confused hearing Iruka mention his parents like that. He'd been an orphan for as long as Naruto had known him. An orphan since you killed Iruka's parents. You're the demon fox. Naruto shook his head, banishing the phantom accusations. That wasn't true. He had nothing to do with it. Mizuki was an ass. Come on then, Iruka. I'll keep an eye out. Your own personal bodyguard. I don't even charge, ain't I nice? Iruka's grin reached his ears. He nodded enthusiastically. As they walked, Naruto realized the same thing that Jiraiya and the shinobi formerly known as Kakashi had realized. Looking at this boy so excited about having met someone near his own age who was kinda unwilling to take a beating just so his mother could have her vegetables, Naruto made a decision. It wouldn't happen the same way. No way in hell. And that realization made him feel strangely calm. He had a goal. He chuckled. Stupid fox wouldn't know what hit him. Iruka looked up at him. Huh? Is something funny, Naruto-san? Nothing, Iruka, Senator here. Kun. Say. You like ramen? Chapter 13, Minor Setback. This is good, Iruka said around a mouthful of noodles. Thank you. No problem, Naruto said, waving it off. Always happy to spread it around, you know. Gotta give him more business. So did you get all you needed? Iruka lifted the bag on the stool beside him and nodded. Uh-huh. Everything on my mom's list. Cool. Well, looks like you're about done. How about I walk you back home, make sure nobody tries to sneak up on you? The black-haired boy smiled widely. Okay. Naruto hopped off his own stool, tossed some money on the counter, and ruffled Irika's hair as they started walking. As the boy began chattering about various things, Naruto's thoughts wandered. What's this gonna do to the Irika I know? He asked himself, frowning. Is he gonna remember? Is all this stuff gonna screw up anything? He tried to keep from letting on to Irika that he wasn't really listening, but that thought, one that hadn't struck him before, now had him suddenly very worried. But Eros and Nin and Kakashi-sensei aren't worried about it. They're doing the same thing. Talking to people, helping out, doing all kinds of stuff. If this was gonna do anything, wouldn't they be more careful? But some part of him seemed to chuckle at that thought. And that chuckle wasn't heartening. They don't know if this will have repercussions. Your mentors are not infallible. Who is to say they are even thinking of possible consequences? They seem caught up in reliving their own memories. And it is doubtful that they are very level-headed right now. Naruto wasn't sure if it was the fox speaking in his mind or just a more pragmatic side of himself. But no matter where the thought had come from, it was probably true. Jiraiya wasn't exactly a responsible citizen after all, and no matter how careful he might choose to be in certain situations, this was a time in which his judgment would likely be clouded. And Kakashi? Well, who knew with him? Naruto pondered this all the way to Irika's home, trying to figure out just what he should do, or if he should do nothing at all and just have fun with it. The latter was clearly the more inviting of the two options, but that was just why he was seriously considering the former. It was too easy to just leave it up to his teachers. Wasn't it? But then that was what he should do, right? They were the elder shinobi. The ones in charge. Was it his place too? Has that ever stopped you before? Naruto flinched. Damn. Stupid logic. Whose? Blinking, Naruto came up short and glanced at Irika. Huh? Sorry, what? I said that's my house. Over there. The boy pointed. Oh, Naruto said dumbly. All right. A young woman was out on the porch flipping through a magazine. She looked up as the pair approached and smiled. You're a bit late, Irika-chan. Irika shrugged. Sorry, Mom. I got into some trouble. But Naruto-san helped me. He gestured with a grin. Naruto chuckled and waved. Hiya. A shinobi? The woman asked somewhat incredulously. What happened? Naruto shrugged. Bunch of idiots. Picking on him for some reason. Didn't bother asking why. Money, I think. I scared him off. Are you okay? She asked Irika worriedly. Are you hurt, Irika-chan? I am fine, Mom. Here. He handed her the bag of groceries. She took it, set it aside, and knelt down to hug her son. Why didn't you tell us people were picking on you again? Irika, clearly embarrassed nonetheless, returned the hug. I didn't want you and Dad to worry. It's okay now, Mom. Naruto smiled. Don't worry, he said. Anything happens again, I'll set things right. That's what I am here for. Irika's mother returned Naruto's smile. Thank you so much. No need for that. Ninja are here to protect the village. Some of them look at that as keeping enemy ninja away from us by going on missions all the time. I think it's more personal than that, you know? I mean, if we don't keep the village worth protecting, then there's no point. So we gotta keep the stupid people in line when they think they can do whatever the hell they want. I like that. Well, thank you very much, Naruto-san. I really appreciate it. Naruto nodded in acknowledgement. Thanks. Glad to see I am appreciated. He grinned widely. Well, I am off. Got some training to do. Are you sure you have to leave? We owe you something for this. At least stay for dinner? Well, there was something in the woman's eyes. Something he couldn't place. He blinked and a sudden striking thought came to him. Thanks a lot, but I gotta go. Rain check? Come by any time. Yeah, Irika said happily. He chuckled nervously and nodded. Thanks a lot. I'll, see you guys later. Take it easy, Irika-kun. He turned away. Mom! He heard Irika say from behind him, but he barely heard it. I think I want to go back to the academy. Really? His mother asked. Changed your mind? Yeah, I did. I think. Some distant part of him noted the irony of the scene taking place behind him, but most of Naruto's mind was locked on a single thought, a single question, and it seemed to take over him like a fever. If Irika's parents were alive in this time, then what about mine? Seems he met Irika's mother today. He left looking quite preoccupied. Jiraiya shrugged. No surprise there. Probably trying to wrap his mind around it. Irika's parents have been dead as long as he's been alive. He knows that too. He knows why they died too. That might be part of it. Kimura frowned. Guilt, you think? It's possible. Are you sure this was a good idea? Doesn't matter now, does it? He's had enough to worry about lately. He doesn't need misplaced guilt on top of it. He may be a ninja, but he's still a child. Far as I am concerned, so are you. I know that Kakashi, but I also know that Naruto's smarter than he acts, and he should know that feeling personally responsible for what the Kyuubi did is misguided and pointless. Should. Yes, and we should tell Sandaime about certain events, not the least of which being that a certain student of his will end up quite a large problem in a few years. Just why haven't we, by the way? You're the one who said we should use our knowledge to change things, aren't you? So what about Orochimaru? Just walking up to the old man and telling him isn't going to be enough. He trusts me, yes, but enough to denounce one of his prized students before he's been proven to have done anything yet? I don't think so. Just take things slow, would you? Do what Minato asked you to. Keep that up for a while and keep an eye out. We'll handle this all, but we have to be careful about it, or no one will take us seriously. That sounds like an excuse to me. Slap whatever label you want on it, it's what we're going to be doing. Now come on. Hurry it up. Kimura started to say something else, but stopped. He simply shrugged and followed the hermit. It was no use anyway. Rin, Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura. Where are Naruto and Obito? Minato asked, crossing his arms. I can't speak for Obito, Jiraiya said, but it seems Naruto ran into a bit of a situation earlier. It's been dealt with, and he should be here soon. Situation. A minor setback. Nothing major. Minato nodded and turned away. Fine. Do you two have any idea where Obito is? He asked Rin and Kakashi. I went to his house earlier this morning, Rin said. If I had to guess, I'd say he's doing chores. Makoto-sama told me that he's been slacking and his mother's getting irritated about it. Minato sighed. For once I agree with Obito on his mother's methods. When I specifically asked for him, I didn't expect him here. I'll have to have a talk with him about this. Well, sometimes he uses your authority as an excuse to get out of things even when you haven't actually asked for him, Rin pointed out. Minato grunted. It makes no difference if she doesn't believe him. When I call for one of my soldiers, he is to be here. Obito is late almost every time you call us, Kakashi pointed out dryly. When the summons deals with an impending mission, he is at most 5 minutes late. 2 hours is absolutely ridiculous. So go get him, Kakashi suggested. Why haven't you done that already? Jiraiya wondered. I kept expecting him to be here in the next couple minutes, Minato grumbled as he stuffed his hands into his pockets and started off toward the Uchiha district. Sensei, you're in charge till I get back. If Naruto doesn't show, go get him too. Jiraiya smirked. Of course. As you wish. Minato turned his eyes back and gave his teacher a stern look. Don't. I am not in the mood to play psychologist today. Fine, fine. I'll be good. Go on. Minato nodded. A flicker of movement and the man known as the Yellow Flash was nowhere to be seen. Show off. Jiraiya muttered. Hey, look. There's Naruto. Hey Naruto, what took you so long? Kimura noted the backward nature of the scene unfolding before him, and he almost laughed. This time Sakura was the one calling out to Naruto while Naruto was the one ignoring her. He half worried that he would walk straight past her to his rival and call him Sasuke-kun. Naruto looked up though, gave a haphazard grin that showed he really wasn't paying attention, and said, "Hey Sakura-chan." Kimura glanced at Jiraiya. That glance said, "Told you so." Jiraiya frowned. "Oi kid, you look like you just ran out of ramen. Something's on your mind. Spill." Yeah, there is actually. Could I ask you a question, Sensei?" Something about the tone of Naruto's voice unnerved both his teachers. It was too young. He sounded nothing like usual. He sounded like a child. A lonely, nervous child. Jiraiya's frown deepened. Sure, Naruto, sure. Come on. Come with me." Kimura watched the pair leave, and when Sakura started to ask what was wrong, he held up a hand to stop her from following. "Let them be," he said. It was clear that she was worried. Even Sasuke seemed halfway concerned. Yes. This was entirely backward. It was almost comical. "Mama gotta go. Sensei told me to meet him 2 hours ago." "Of course he did. And if you'd actually done what I asked of you when I asked instead of complaining, you'd have been there already." "Mom, you can't do this. What if it's a mission? What if they left without me? What if they're dead because I wasn't Obito? Will you just do it?" "Mom, he's 2. What the hell's he gonna learn? Fugaku-sama apparently thinks he'll learn something from it. So just do it, alright? You're the one complaining about being late." Obito groaned and ran his hands irritably through his hair. "If it's a mission, Sensei's just gonna have me send him back. And if it's for training, I can't be playing babysitter." Looking at the expression on his mother's face, Obito realized it wasn't going to work. Sighing again, this time in resignation, he shook his head at the futility of it all and stomped over to his little cousin, snatching his hand. "Let's go, Runt." "Yay! We go now! Go now!" Yeah, we go now. Come on." Obito began stalking over to the door and didn't realize someone had entered the room until he bumped into him. Itachi blinked up at the blond man who had suddenly appeared in front of him, then looked curiously down at his cousin tugging at his headband and laughed. He looked back up at Minato, still laughing, and walked deliberately into his leg, pitching himself backward onto his back. Finding this particularly hilarious, he began laughing all the more. Obito glared at the boy. "Ha. Funny stuff, kid. Funny. Funny." Itachi agreed. "Care to explain yourself, Obito?" Obito squeaked, looked up, and flinched when he realized who he'd bumped into. Hi there, Sensei." I was just leaving?" I am sure." Minato lifted his gaze to Obito's mother. "I was told that the reason for Obito's tardiness today was due to duties around his home. Is this true?" She nodded. "Partly, yes. Partly. So if he hadn't been held up by these things, he would have heeded my call sooner." "I am sure that would have been the case." Minato frowned and nodded. "I see. Well, I will have to assume that the reason Obito was obligated to perform whatever tasks you asked of him today was because he was lax in them the first time." Perceptive. Minato's eyes hardened. "Be that as it may, I do not appreciate one of my men being held back from answering my summons due to something as paltry as household chores. It may be that he deserves punishment for having a lack of discipline, and indeed he should have done whatever it is you asked of him sooner than now. However, Uchiha Obito is a soldier in Konoha's military. When I need him, I need him. His obligation to his clan does not, despite beliefs to the contrary, I am sure, take precedence over his obligation to the village as a whole." Obito half expected his mother to blow up at the blonde jounin, but blinked in surprise when all she said was, "I see." "I apologize for my intrusion into your house," Minato said, bowing curtly, "and for my abruptness. But I have little time. Sandaime-sama has called on my squad for a mission in 3 days' time and has explicitly asked that we be in peak form." "I see. In that case, I apologize. I was under the impression that he was lying." "He is wont to do that on occasion. One of his teammates mentioned that. I'll have to work on it." Obito flinched again at the look his commander gave him. He looked down at his lap, sighing. Itachi was still giggling, imitating his cousin's position. I wonder, since you are here, the clan head has asked that Itachi observe Obito's training today. I suppose to expose him to it before he enters the academy in a few years. Would that be a problem? Minato glanced down at the boy. Itachi looked up at him. You old man, he said happily. Despite himself, Minato chuckled. Hello. So, your father wants you to come with Obito today, huh? Me go. Me go. I see. Very well then. Let's go. Quickly now. Obito got up, cast a sheepish glance back at his mother. He wanted to tell her told you so, but didn't dare, and followed his teacher, grabbing hold of his cousin's hand out of pure habit. Bye-bye, Auntie, Itachi said. Behave yourself, Itachi-chan. I behave. Behave good. Good. I'll see you later, sweetie. Seaway Terrace. And they left to what they all three believed would be a perfectly normal day of training. Chapter 14, Just Not Right. It was a shame, really. Of course Minato didn't know and had no way of knowing what would happen as a result of his allowing Obito to take his young cousin with them that day. It was an innocent enough request after all. Minato wasn't exactly sure what Uchiha Fugaku expected little Itachi to learn from watching his cousin's team, and wasn't exactly sure if he approved of the idea considering just how little Itachi was, but nonetheless, he was unable to actually pinpoint a concrete reason why it would be a bad thing. Itachi would join the Shinobi Corps eventually after all, and knowing the Uchiha probably sooner than most would consider proper. It really wouldn't be too surprising to the blonde jounin to see Itachi enter into the academy in a scant 2 or 3 years. After all, Kakashi had graduated when he'd just been a few years older than the boy shuffling alongside Obito. But that was the way with the noble clans, he figured. The younger the better. The Uchiha made a habit, it seemed, of tossing their youth into the world of ninja from their first breaths. He had a sudden image of an Uchiha clan member cutting the umbilical cord of a newborn with a kunai rather than a physician's scalpel, just for the principle of it. So yes, it seemed innocent enough. Well, maybe innocent wasn't the best word for it, but it was expected. It was just how the Uchiha clan worked. And although Minato had some ideas as to changing that eventually, he certainly hadn't the influence to do it now. He was an up-and-comer. He wasn't a real leader just yet. He had no way of knowing that if Jiraiya had been in the immediate area, he very well might have had a heart attack at the prospect of allowing Itachi to meet his cousin's team and their new friends. The results Jiraiya might have assured his protege in that event would be nothing short of cataclysmic. And so Minato, his student and a 2-year-old child, continued to walk headfirst into the apocalypse. As it was, Jiraiya was tied up in another situation, one that unnerved him quite a bit. Naruto seemed nervous, jittery, distracted. In other words, the polar opposite of everything he had come to expect from the young genin. Naruto always put on a confident face regardless of the situation. If it dealt with anything he deemed important, Naruto was as focused as any shinobi before him. And if it dealt with anything he didn't deem important, he was not lax in letting his opinion be known, and most assuredly never shuffled his feet and flickered his eyes at everything but Jiraiya, as if searching for the words to explain his predicament. Jiraiya normally would have ordered the brat to get on with it, but had an idea that this was an immensely serious subject, and to treat it so trivially would be stepping over a very delicate line. He crossed his arms. I can see something heavy's on your mind, Naruto, he said. What is it you wanted to ask me? Well, he began, then drew in a deep, frustrated breath and ran his hands haphazardly through his hair. I wanted to know something, sensei. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Oh? What? Well, it's just... This is a long time ago. Right? I mean, stuff that's happened in our time. Well, hasn't had time to happen yet. Sorta. Well, I wanted to know if you knew where some people are. You know, if they're around. Suddenly Jiraiya had a very clear idea what was this about. It should have come to him sooner, as soon as he'd realized that Naruto had run into Iruka and had met his mother. His mother. Of course. I know just about everyone who lives here, Kid Jiraiya said. Who is it you're looking for? Naruto looked up at him, and again the hermit was unnerved by just how vulnerable young Naruto looked. It was as if thinking about his parents had put him back into the mindset of a 5-year-old too scared to go or be anywhere without Sandaime or at least some other adult to accompany him. I wanted to know if you knew where my mom and dad are. Who my mom and dad are? Well, there it was. Despite knowing that it was coming, Jiraiya had to scramble for an answer. He still wasn't comfortable with the idea of letting Naruto know. In retrospect, he wasn't even sure why he was uncomfortable with the idea, only that he was. And Jiraiya, just like so many other people who knew him, trusted his own gut instincts. And those instincts told him that it just wasn't a good idea. Not yet. You know, Naruto, I am not sure how far back we are. So I am not exactly certain where they be. But I do know who would. Tell you what, kid. I'll ask the old man next time I see him. Old man Hokage? He knows? He would. Naruto frowned. But if he knew who they were, then why wouldn't he? Tell me? Maybe he thought you weren't ready to know that yet, Naruto, Jiraiya said. He's always been the sort to never dwell on the past, you know. You have a family now, and he probably just wanted you to focus on them instead of, well, you know, chasing ghosts. Naruto nodded distractedly, but it was clear that that answer didn't satisfy him. Maybe. He mumbled. I just want to see them. Just so I know what they look like. You know? I'll make sure to ask him, Jiraiya assured. Till then, just focus on what we're doing here. You're training with the fourth himself. That's no small thing. So how about we go back, huh? Naruto brooded on this for a long moment, then looked up at Jiraiya and forced a grin on his face. Yeah. Sure. Thanks, Sensei. Naruto went back in the direction of the training ground, leaving Jiraiya behind. And as he walked back, Jiraiya had to wonder yet again the exact reason he wasn't letting Naruto know just whose legacy he carried. Just who his family really was. And why he wasn't letting Minato know too. He never ignored his instincts. But sometimes he questioned them. Sakura couldn't help but wonder just what in the hell was wrong with her, but nonetheless found herself sighing with relief when Naruto came back with that same dopey grin on his face. It just hadn't looked right seeing him before. But even though she was glad to see him smiling again, she noticed something off about it. He still looked distracted. He still looked troubled. Like he was trying to come to grips with something. She wondered what he had to ask Jiraiya about that was so urgent and so private, but knew that it wouldn't do any good to ask. He wouldn't answer, and worse, it felt like a breach in loyalty. Like he'd never forgive her if she did. She asked herself and got no answer why that bothered her as much as it did. The smile was fake. No matter what it was that he was thinking about, it was clear that his smile wasn't real. Wasn't right. He wasn't happy. But he wanted everyone to think he was. Why hadn't she ever noticed before? She tried to think back, think of how many other times he had worn that same fake smile, and was struck with a sharp pang of guilt when she realized that she couldn't remember. But somehow she knew that this smile wasn't new to Naruto. She looked at Sasuke and thought that he knew it too. He'd probably known it for a long time. She balked when she realized that she wanted to comfort the blonde and affirmed her earlier thought that there was something seriously wrong with her. But before she could think any more about any of that, her mind went completely blank when she saw Minato coming back. And more importantly, when she saw the pair following him. His teammates wondered if Sasuke had yet realized if his brother was alive at the time they currently inhabited. They wondered if he had entertained the idea. They wondered how he would react if he found out the truth. Sasuke knew upon seeing a member of his family alive that Jiraiya's jutsu had sent them at the very least 4 years back. He knew upon seeing the fourth alive that the jutsu had sent them at least 12 years back. That the fourth had not been officially instated, as Hokage added another year to the total. As of yet, however, he hadn't been able to determine the exact year. If he had known, as Naruto knew, the year that Ichiraku Ramen had been established, however, he would have known at the very least that Itachi was alive. Ichirakatuchi first opened his business in the same year that his daughter Ayame was born. Itachi had been born that same year. He was still sorting everything he knew in his head, trying, albeit with no real urgency, to determine just when he was when the answer presented itself, crying out a joyful "Huo!" as it rushed up to meet the group, so vastly removed from any image Sasuke had ever had of it that he didn't recognize it. Thus Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Itachi came face to face with each other for only the second time since Itachi had single-handedly decimated their entire clan. And neither recognized the other. Minato scanned the group and nodded as Jiraiya and Naruto finally joined them. "Good," he said, clapping his hands together mostly for effect. "We're all here. Finally. Sandaime has given us notice of a mission in a few days, and I expect to see some improvement in you three before we leave. Sasuke, Sakura, Kimura, if you wouldn't mind assisting my students in this matter? They seem to be doing well with you." "Understood," Kimura said idly. "Yes, sir," Sakura said with a slight shake in her voice as she bowed. "Right," Sasuke put in. Said Kakashi. "Aye, sensei." Rin nodded her head. "Gotcha," Obito said, removing his hand from his cousin's grip, relieved that his commander would apparently be in charge of keeping an eye on him. After all, training was serious business. Not to be ignored for any length of time, Itachi took the opportunity to mingle. He shuffled up to Sakura, the only person of the group other than Obito and the Bwundi man that he recognized, and said hello. "You, Hello again," Sakura said nervously. Rin, of course not aware of the delicacy of the current situation, asked the dreaded question. "I don't think we've met before." "What's your name, little one?" "SMY cousin," Obito muttered. "Don't think you have met him before." "Well, go on, runt. Introduce yourself since you're so social today." "Huo!" Itachi said, flopping forward in a haphazard bow that caused Rin to laugh. "My name Itachi. What yours?" Had anyone been looking directly at him the moment Itachi said his name, they would have seen a torrent of emotions pass through Sasuke's eyes that could be likened to nothing less than a hurricane. Shock, rage, terror, hate, love, betrayal, everything passed through him at that moment, and he felt as though he were caught in the dreaded Tsukiyomi technique, despite the fact that the eyes currently commanding his attention held no trace of crimson, nor any trace of anything Sasuke attributed to the man who had ruined him. This was it. This was the center, the essence, the nexus of everything Sasuke hated. Everything he had spent the last 4 years straining to overcome, to bury, to crush into nothingness. Here was the end of his ambition. Here was the pinnacle of his goals. Here was the culmination of his despair. Uchiha Itachi, the tall, dark, imposing figure, that blood-eyed demon, that soulless monster, had taken Sasuke's trust and shattered it. Uchiha Itachi had taken Sasuke's life and crushed it. Sasuke had lost once to his brother and had sworn that the next time would be different. He had vowed that he would kill Itachi the next time they met and bury the sacrilege done to his family in its instigator's blood. And yet, this was, even in his earliest memories, when Itachi had been all that was right, when he had idolized the man as a god, he had been tall, strong, proud. Sasuke had always looked up at his brother, had always been the lower of them, had always been inferior, weaker, less important. Itachi had always been the elder, the wiser, the better of them. And now Sasuke looked down and saw not the proud figure of his youth, nor the wretched figure of his present, but something altogether different. And yet, still he could see him. It was Itachi. But it wasn't. But it was. But it couldn't be. But it had to be. This and everything else passed through Sasuke's mind in the span of a few seconds, and only his training kept this maelstrom from showing on his face. Still, Kakashi Kimura saw him and saw his thoughts. "Calm," the Jounin whispered. I am fine," Sasuke murmured under his breath. "I am okay. It's nothing." He couldn't remove his eyes from the boy, couldn't shift his focus. The child commanded his every thought, his every emotion. He barely managed to remind himself to blink. When the boy turned to him and squeaked out a cherubic greeting, he even managed to grunt a somewhat affirmative reply. Satisfied to have been acknowledged, Itachi turned to the young Kakashi next. Sasuke's eyes followed. Behind his backhand slipped into the pouch cinched at his waist, he idly stroked the blade of a kunai with his thumb. Chapter 15: Monumental Failure. Naruto went stiff and suddenly all thoughts of his parents flew from his mind like a bird sent away by a loud noise. His eyes flicked instantly to the child as he shuffled forward, and suddenly Naruto understood what Sakura had been talking about. He had played it off as unimportant, had put forth the idea of playing with the past and trying to befriend this tiny little toddler to show him the error of what would become his ways, and it had seemed like such a good idea, hadn't it? Oh, but that was the nature of ideas that seemed like good ones, wasn't it? They always seemed to end up shallow in the end, like hollow caricatures, when you took them out of the fathomless shadows of the might have been and actually examined them as truth. And Naruto understood what Sakura had felt. And in a way he understood what Sasuke felt. He remembered the man in the black cloak, that man that was untouchable, when he heard the name. Hearing that name from its owner's own voice, despite that voice being so incredibly removed from what it should have been, brought forth every image of Uchiha Itachi that Naruto had ever seen. And they frightened him to his core. He thought about what the man he knew had done, thought about everything that bloody legacy held for his village and his friend, and couldn't believe his own stupidity. What the hell had he been thinking? Looking at Sasuke, looking at the horrible emotions on his face that he tried to mightily to hold, and Naruto couldn't even try to think about telling the young Uchiha his idea. It just couldn't happen. Sasuke was trying harder than anyone could have understood to hold it all back, and Naruto thought that he was succeeding with most of them, but to him seeing it was easy. So hopelessly easy. Every flicker of thought, every spasm of pain Naruto saw as clearly as if God had taken a pen to the genin's face and written them all down. And Naruto tried to think about what it would feel like seeing such a thing. He tried to think of what he would do if someone went to him and told him to make friends with the Kyuubi, because it would all turn out for the best. The idea almost made him laugh. And was Itachi not Sasuke's Kyuubi? Was the internal battle Sasuke waged right now so different from Naruto's own whenever he felt that damnable heat within his veins snarling and snapping and raving against him to be let free? Naruto imagined what it would have been like if the Kyuubi's attack had been later. If he had been given the chance to have a family before the fox had taken it from him. He tried to think of his parents, those phantom visages that felt so close to him now, but still untouchable, and tried to imagine what it would have been like to have heard their voices, to have had their comfort, to have felt their touch. Tried to imagine that achingly sweet, soothing presence, that feeling that he attributed to all those times Irika had taken him out for ramen even after yelling at him. He tried to imagine having that for so many years and to have it taken away. And even in the abstract it made his heart constrict with such painful intensity that he nearly fell. He really didn't understand Sasuke's pain. He had tried so long to tell himself that he understood enough, but did he? Did he really understand what Sasuke saw right now as Uchiha Itachi wandered around the training ground piping hellos and introductions to everyone in the hope that he'd get some sort of response? Did he really understand what it meant to see such a horrendous image? A child that most innocent and guileless of things irrevocably tainted and blackened by past that hadn't even happened yet? No. He didn't. And he was a damned idiot for thinking he could. He couldn't help but think that every happy moment he had managed to salvage in this experiment of Jiraiya's had been tainted in some way by distraction. The man who called himself Kimura was known for brooding, but the truth of the matter was that he was just unusually adept at being focused. So in tune with his surroundings that he didn't need to look like he was. But just because he didn't have to try to focus on the here and now didn't mean that he let his mind wander often. It was quite the opposite, actually. He almost never let his mind wander. Because of what happened every time he did. Kimura knew on a purely analytical level what his student was feeling right now, and he knew that it could go one of any number of ways, or perhaps even several, and that was the problem. He couldn't really gauge what Sasuke would do now. There was just no way of telling looking at his face, as it was what would happen now. Kimura could quite easily imagine Sasuke leaping on the boy and strangling him. He could also imagine him simply standing still, silent and stoic as he always was. He could imagine him fainting. He could imagine him crying. He could imagine him laughing, cursing, screaming, deeping, staring, stammering, fidgeting. Sasuke really was unpredictable, and that was especially true when the subject at hand was his brother. Itachi was and always had been not just a sore spot, but the sore spot with Sasuke, and Kimura had seen a wide spectrum of reactions to the man's name. But here was something entirely different. Wasn't it so similar to the feeling Kimura himself had felt upon seeing his old team, his old mentor, his old family again? Hadn't it been that tight, constricting, almost unbearable disbelief butting heads with the brutal clarity of reality? Kimura thought that it was. But it was more, wasn't it? Because not only was Sasuke younger than Kimura, which of course made him more vulnerable to such things, but Sasuke was also far more troubled than Kimura had been. After all, Kimura had been facing friends. People who had never wronged him, had never done anything but helped and nurtured and loved him. Sasuke was facing the devil. But even the devil had been an angel once, and that held so true in this situation that Kimura nearly laughed upon thinking it. Was it right to blame this boy? Was it right to put the hangman's noose around such a tiny neck? Was it right to condemn someone for a crime they had yet to commit? He didn't think it was. And yet, for all the thoughts that had passed through his comrades' minds, they were nothing compared to Sasuke's own. There was no real way to comprehend just what went through his mind in those moments. Just what dominated his thoughts as the day suddenly regained its focus, and he began going through the motions of training without really being there. Obito was getting better, and it was clear to Sasuke that there really was something to this boy other than his Naruto-like personality. But he wasn't thinking about that. He wasn't paying any real attention at all, and a part of him would wonder later if the reason it seemed Obito was improving had been because he, Sasuke, had been slacking. It might have been because at every moment possible Sasuke's eyes were drawn to the boy, the tiny little boy sitting on the ground near where the future Yondaime and his teacher were discussing something with Naruto, every so often looking up at them and striking up conversation. Oi! Obito snapped, and Sasuke was caught on the side of his face by a flying kick. You're the one what keeps telling me to focus. Izumi-senpai. Sasuke soared to the side, barely managing to pivot and right himself so that he landed sliding on his feet. Obito was standing nearly 10 feet from him, arms crossed and eyes confused. Sasuke shook his head, trying to clear it, and forced himself to stop. Tried to clear his head and focus on what he was here to do. It had nothing to do with him. Not now. Not yet. Sorry. Sasuke mumbled, and Obito's eyebrow quirked. Yeah, the Chunin replied. Whatever. Come on. Back to it, eh? Sasuke nodded. So what's happened to you anyway? Jiraiya frowned curiously at his student. Pardon? Well, Minato said, making a nonsensical gesture with one hand toward his teacher, you aren't looking your best. If I had to guess, I'd say you look at least 50. What brought this on? Jiraiya asked a little too quickly. Minato shrugged. It's been a while since I've seen you, but I wouldn't have thought the road would have treated you that badly. Did you get married again? Jiraiya forced a laugh, and miraculously it didn't sound forced. No. You're right. Life as a hermit's pretty hard. I have aged for it, haven't I? But things haven't been too bad, really. My book's coming along well, and of course these yahoos have kept me on my game. Clearly that wasn't quite the answer Minato had been looking for, because he seemed unconvinced, but he let the subject go at that. It was clear to Jiraiya that now that the notion had taken hold, it wouldn't go away just because of one of his usual stories. Minato knew better than most how often Jiraiya kept secrets from people, especially his friends, and he knew that there was a secret involved here. But until the old hermit was prepared to spill, Minato clearly wasn't about to push the issue. Pushing would only cause Jiraiya to hold even tighter to the secret purely out of spite. All right, he muttered, shrugging again. So what's with Naruto today? He seems distracted. Jiraiya glanced at the young genin sitting cross-legged on the ground and staring at his palm, focused, but not quite focused enough. He knew, of course, that it was the 2-year-old seated not 6 feet away from them, playing in the dirt, and every so often looking up to watch the young ninja train. He was especially drawn to Obito and Sasuke, of course. Not sure, Jiraiya muttered. Guessing he didn't eat much this morning. He gets like that without his fix. Minato chuckled, and that he seemed to accept at least a little better than the first one. The day ended like so many other days ended lately. Minato and Jiraiya, seated treating their students Ramen, Kimura and Kakashi, remained stone silent, as if nothing at all had happened at all ever, and Sakura and Rin carried on an animated discussion about techniques and theories Sasuke had never heard of. Then again, he still wasn't paying attention. Obito was clearly feeling good about himself because he was still practically skipping. He even ruffled Itachi's hair as the boy bounced over to him. Sasuke's eyes were immediately glued to the toddler again, and he still wasn't sure just what he was feeling, what he was thinking, what he was planning. "Huo!" cried Itachi gleefully. Sasuke blinked when he realized that this greeting had been addressed to him. and he made a half-wave gesture with one hand in response that seemed like a simple spasm of his arm. You twaining? Itachi said, apparently under the impression that this should be kept a secret. You twain Obi. Make strong. Obito snapped the Chunin. Show respect, runt. Respect. Itachi repeated. Respect, sensei. Sensei Obito corrected immediately, and he's not my. You know what? Never mind. You don't listen. Dom listen. Itachi looked over at Sasuke, eyes sparkling with mirth. He leaned over as if indulging another secret and said, no listen, 'cause Obi dummy head. And Sasuke realized that he had failed. He had lost to his brother. Again. Because he laughed.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There is also a link in the description to my Patreon. It has Naruto fanfiction that cannot be posted on YouTube. There is some free content on there. So, you don't have to be a paying member to enjoy listening to excellent fanfiction.